Welcome everyone to the AFL Trade Drafts Finals Live, where we're just going to chat a bit of rubbish about the AFL leading up to finals. We're going to structure this so there is a chance. I've got a few of your questions that have come in today, so thank you very much for that. So we'll try and have a look at that. I will drop the link just towards the end of the show. You can come on, chat a bit of rubbish with me, which will be cool. But what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the finals. Good day, Peter. How are you doing? We're going to look at the finals, Colin. We're going to look at the finals. We're going to look at season reviews of the teams that haven't made the finals as well. Have a little bit of a look at things that they can look out for in the draft. Also, maybe a bit of trades. Throw in your questions, trade, draft, finals related. Even if it's life related, we can do that. Digsby, Lou, Big Steve, how you doing, mate? Lon Wolfan, g'day, mate. Good to meet you the other day as well, mate. Really good. So if you did meet me this weekend, just let me know. Was a little bit dusty at the end, so if you did introduce yourself towards the end of the night, wouldn't have a fucking clue if I said hello to you, so it's always good. Lou's in chat, g'day, Lucinda. Patrick, g'day. So, right, let's get straight into it. So what I've done is I thought we'll look at the teams that aren't there. So there you are. So we start off with the worst team in the league, and that was 18th. Should we consider Stringer? I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I'd take Tim Membry, but aside from that, Stringer, so injured. So injured. Southern Golf Club, Jesus, it would have been cold today. Imagine playing golf today, Pete. Have to hit the ball low, back of the foot, keep the hands really active really underactive through the ball. Good day, everyone. I agree. I'm not a fan. So, Richmond, so what we've looked at here, picks 1 and pick 21. So, obviously, they're going to have the pick of the bunch, aren't they? We can't really argue with what they're going to get. So, Jagger Smith, for me, would be a really good acquisition for them. And the reason that I say Jagger Smith over footballers that they could look at is really on the proviso that when I look at Richmond's list, I think they need everything. Like they're going to lose half a team. Let's be honest. They're going to lose half a team, right? Everyone is trading out of there. So my theory on this one here is Jagger Smith's probably the best available. He's big, he's strong, incredibly talented, can change the game. And he's got a bit of mobility about him, but they'd be a team I'd be looking at. Either you try and get pick 2 or you maybe look at trading down just with the quality of this draft because I feel like they need half a position. Does he have the moves? Hey, Josh, you're here now. Does he have the moves? He does have the moves like Jagger. And then an interesting target. I thought about this. West Coast Eagles. Bevto, never apologise. I look, they're doing a bit of business with the Eagles and stuff. I'd be looking at trying to get Ryan Marich in. I think they need a key position player, and I feel like Marich is someone probably they look at getting rid of, who's gettable. So I gave them a 1 out of 10 this year because I think it's really disappointing. The reason I gave them 1, and chat, let me know what your rating is for Richmond out of 10. I've given them a 1 out of 10. G'day, John. I've given them a 1 out of 10. Because I think you've got to look at that trade they did a couple of years ago. Brought in Taranto, brought in the other guys, brought in Hopper, rock bottom, needs a lot of work. Half the list is leaving. They're in a world of hate. Much love, D. 1.1. G'day, Richie. G'day, Gav. G'day. Dead set gone. I agree, mate. G'day, everyone. Yeah, I agree. I think they're absolutely cooked. But I agree. Ryan Marich isn't brilliant, but I think he's a young enough player that you can bring someone in through the draft. So they haven't got a lot of depth in that key position player. So I just think that they'd really like them picks. So I wouldn't mind them going pick 1, pick 2, pick 12, pick 1 and maybe bringing it down. But 1 out of 10, an off-season targeting, rebuild. Like, you've got to hit... This is probably the best draft to rebuild in because it's so deep. So, for me, Richmond, although it looks bad at the moment, I think they can fix it. I think they can. But to me, you've got to be bold here, and they're going to get a few picks back. They're losing half a team. And to be honest, does this sound harsh? I don't think Shai Bolton, Liam Baker, and Dan Rioli are massive losses, to be honest, for a team that's rebuilding, because with all due respect to all three of them, I feel like they're show ponies. Do you know what I mean? They're show pony players. I feel like they need to bring in these players and bring some grit and determination. So Richmond, seems you all agree as well, that they're in a bad situation, but this is where you go hard. This is where you go hard. North Melbourne, 2-22. Josh Smiley's who I've gone for here. Josh Smiley here. And I feel like North Melbourne are in a worse position than Richmond. And why I say that is I think Richmond have still got enough people on their list to protect any draftees who are there and been there and done it. Right? Where I feel like they've got a lot of top-end talent. Exactly like Digsby says, a lot of top-end talent. So I feel like North Melbourne need to get grit in here. So pick 2, for me, isn't really essential. Right? He's really, really essential. And I agree there, JD, spot on. I think Josh Smiley is a better prospect for you guys. But I think you've got players to replace Josh at the moment. And I agree, like with North, I'd be trading down. And imprint learning, Adrian. So I feel like they need grit. When I look at North's list, I think they've got so much top-end talent. So I think if they could go in and get like a Harry Armstrong or someone like that, if they do take 2, though, I think Josh Smiley is that guy. I think he's the POD that they haven't got already. But dream target for me is someone like Luke Parker. I think bringing in someone who you can protect these young boys, because I feel like the worst thing they can do at this moment in time is just hang juniors out to dry. And we saw this. So I agree with what Peter V says. We need key position players, North do. I don't think you want to go too young, though. Like, ideally, you get that you want to get some experience around them. You don't want to just get, like what Carlton did, Dow on the ball. They've got so many young superstars. I'd like to have some of that maturity around. Digsby, great call with Sidebottom, Luke Parker, some over 30 players. McIntosh, you mentioned him at Richmond. He would be brilliant. Matt Kennedy would be brilliant. So I've got grit. And I agree with Aiden, 3.5 out of 10. I feel like this is a 3 out of 10. I think they should have been a lot better. They had a lot of top-end talent. There's still quite a little bit of the old guys there as well. For me, it looks so... I feel like they've banked too hard on junior talent. And we know that the top teams who rebuild, right? Top teams that rebuild, that they have maturity in there as well. And I feel like when I watch North, I feel like they have no spine to fight. I look at them and I just think they're an easy beat when it gets beaten up. So I'd be looking at some mature talent. Cheers, Alexi, mate. I saw you on a BA. Theon, thank you very much. So for me, this is what I've done. But their first round pick, I'd love to knock that. If I was them, this would be the first time I would break the trend. Because everyone always says you don't trade down pick 2, pick 1. I disagree. I think you do when you've got all this junior talent. So it's an interesting one what they do here. But I would definitely be looking. Be interesting to see what Clarkson's relationship with Sam Frost is. Now they've got battling. I'd maybe be targeting that. I'm a big fan of Kennedy. But if I was another team, I would be paying a bit of big money for him. So North Melbourne, I gave him a 3 out of 10. West Coast, they don't worry me as much as other teams. You know what I mean? When I look at West Coast, they don't worry me. There's 2 reasons. One, they're a big club, right? They're a big club out in the West. And 2, I think that they will get a rebuild right very quickly. So we've gone here with them quite simply for me. And that is we've gone with Luke Traynor. I think their backline is cooked. And I agree, Rocco. I think West Coast have got people want to go to them. Like, they want to go. If I was a kid, I'd rather go to a club like West Coast than, no disrespect, but a club like North. And we've gone with a little bit of a Lee Kalia, which I think is an incredibly important little one. I agree. He's a Carlton boy as well. I'd love him at Carlton as well, but I feel like they can get out of this. But Luke Traynor for me is like that Mitch McGovern type intercept defender. And major depth for me, either Richmond or West Coast for me have to go bold here and maximise the fact that there's drafts and maximise that there's clubs like 12, 11, 10, 9 and 8 in the ladder probably could do with a rejuvenation of their list. So I'm a big fan. If you watched my video earlier, I'm on Luke Traynor. And Frank, I don't want to trade Kennedy. What I'm saying is here, if I was one of these teams, I'd be targeting him because I feel like he's underutilized at Carlton. And this would be a great opportunity for some of these clubs to bring him in and say full-time mid-minutes. So it's an interesting one with these. Major depth, though, is my off-season target for them. So 3 out of 10. A 3 out of 10. And Adelaide, for me, I could give them a 1. The reason I haven't is I think that a lot of their young players have got times. I will be doing it at the end, mate. I'll be doing it at the end, so I'll drop the link. Much love, mate. Good to see you. So 4 and 25. Their dream target for me in the draft is Sid Draper. And I feel like you could go big here. But I think Sid Draper is perfect. He's an absolute perfect little acquisition. And Jack Lukosius, I feel like, would be huge to get in there. And I think that they're a real solid team. But when I look at their off-season target, I think Rory Sloan, and might be a controversial, I'd love to know your chat's comments. I feel like Rory Sloan was a massive out for them because he felt like he was the glue that held that team together last year. And there's been a few issues, with personnel there, but I feel like they can really get it going. And Digsby, good call there, key defender. This could be something that they look at with number 4. But I think Sid Draper is too good of a player to turn down at 4. 25, definitely look at that defender. And there's a few out there as well. I think that Sid Draper's too good for them to turn down, though, to be honest. But it would be interesting to see what they do with like some of their later picks. Like, I think an ideal scenario for them would be trying to get the Whitlocks together, which we've seen a lot of state sides do. Go for them go for them honest players. But I think at pick 4, unless they trade down, you've got to go for it. Don't mind Finn O'Sullivan for Richmond, mate. I think he's a safe pick. I just feel like you've got to look for something different. So Adelaide, for me, midfield point of difference would be what I'd be off-season targeting. Whether that's in the draft or whether it's like pick 4, trading down to try and get into the trainer range, will be interesting. I just feel pick 4 is way too early for Luke Traynor. Way too early. So it's going to be an interesting one because they're probably where, if they'd finished where they should have done, their pick's probably really useful for them. But it's going to be interesting. But 2 out of 10, they're probably my most disappointing side. Melbourne, I find really fascinating. And pick 5 and 38 is a real bastard when you are Melbourne, in my opinion. It's a massive, massive issue. It's a massive issue. And Harry Armstrong, I think, is way too early at 5. And pick 38 is weird. It's going to be interesting if they get Keisaiah Pickett probably traded to Fremantle with their picks being 9 in the 9 and 10. I think would be grouse for them because then they can get Armstrong. But I feel like Harry Armstrong is a huge acquisition for them. And if I was their list manager and I only had pick 5, I think it's easy. I think even it going early, I agree with you there. It's about what you need. If I at pick 5, I'd probably go Harry Armstrong. So it's going to be really interesting. But their dream target, I don't mind that, JD, but I mean, it's interesting what you get for that. But Wade Dirksen would be one that I'd be looking at. Do you know what I mean? Wade Dirksen would be one that I'm looking at. As a stopgap, it might allow you to trade a key forward a little bit later. It gives Van Ruin some help straight away. It would be interesting because this has been Melbourne's model for the last couple of years. Go for a forward that's not quite working. I do think Pickett trading out really helps. Pick 9, trying to get pick 9 in there somewhere would be good. But off-season targeting, for me, competition around the side. Around the side. And I agree, A and B and things like that is really, really poor. So 2 out of 10 for me. I think they're in a world of hurt. World of hurt. And I've got a bit of an issue with them. Gold Coast 6 and 13. Well, we know Gold Coast are going to get Lombardo. So that is probably there sorted. And it looks like they're targeting transitional threat. They're transitional. I agree with you, Blue Bagger. Quality midfielder. I think a point of difference for Carlton is a priority with their first pick in the draft. Dan Rioli is obviously their dream target. We all know about it. But Joe Berry is one that I find really interesting. The best small forward in the draft. And I don't feel like they've ever replaced Isaac Rankine since he went to Adelaide. So I feel like Joe Berry would be that sexual little addition to them. But definitely want some transitional threat. Now, I'm not so negative on them because I thought Gold Coast would finish mid-table. They kind of did. So I don't really mind it. And I don't know what you guys and girls think. 4 out of 10. I think it's about par. Probably a bit low. But I just feel like Joe Berry is that little addition. He's that little addition for them that would be nice. And I think Dan Rioli is the perfect target for them. John Noble as well. He's headed out there. But 6 and 13. They've got a few other picks as well, Wooden Spoon. But I feel like that's a good little position for them. Saints are really interesting. And I wanted to throw something out there. So when I look at St Kilda, I see St Kilda like probably 3 years ahead of North Melbourne. And I think they've still got the same issue as North Melbourne. Feels like points of difference around the lines because everyone feels the same. They definitely need a backman because they've lost Battle. But I don't think Battle's as big a loss as people have made out for what they're going to get compensated. But 7 and 24 at this stage, there will be a comp pick. I really like Alex Davies. I'm a real big fan. I've got him going to Collingwood. I've got him going to other people as well. But I feel like Alex Davies is the Moneyball selection in this year's pick. And Sam Lalore, I feel like he's another great addition for them. But I look at them and I feel like they need a little bit more grit, a little bit more determination. They feel like something more there. But I think it's where I thought St Kilda would be. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think that this draft is a dream draft for Saints. It's going to be interesting how Sauce drafts. Because where you look at where their picks are, and if you had a couple more picks that they get towards the end of the draft, I feel like 4 picks in the top 30 could be huge. And Jack Lacocious would be a great shout as well. I feel like if they can get 4 picks in the 30, the 4 players they bring in can really cover all the things. And I'm a big fan of Josh Battle, and I mean this with all due respect, though. I don't think he's as good as what they're going to get compensated. Adrian, this is a great question. Great question from you, Adrian, because when I look at Max King and Tim Membry, I feel like Max King is a big version of Tim Membry. It'd be really interesting, and I don't mean this disrespectful because I feel like it'll probably come across, but I wouldn't mind if I was St Kilda risking for someone like a Tom Lynch. And what I mean by that is play him in the goal square. I feel like your best forward for me nowadays isn't full forward, centre-half forward. And he almost acts as like a hybrid link man as well. And you see Charlie do that incredibly well when he goes there. I feel like that's why Harry and Charlie sometimes don't gel, because they both have that tendency to exit forward 50. I feel like if you brought in Tom Lynch for the right price and play him at full forward, it's going to be less running for him. He doesn't have to be mobile because they've tried to convert Tom Lynch at Richmond into... Oh, Narelle, how are you, my darling? Yes, he has. And unfortunately, he'll be a one-club player unless he does. But I feel like Tom Lynch would be a great little acquisition for them. I'd take that risk. I would take that risk if I was Saints and maybe trade it in. But Sam Lalore, I feel like, would be a big one, and it's going to be epic. This should be fun because we're on Essendon. 8 and 28. Now, this is a real tough one because thank you very much, Petra and Lana as well. Essendon, I feel like, are kind of there, but they're kind of not. And I feel like they're in the AFL list management form of purgatory. And it's really interesting that Jake Stringer, a few of you asked about it earlier, has been mentioned with a link away from the club, because I feel like this is what Essendon have got to do. Add them extras there. Do you know what I mean? Add them extras. And I look at their backline, and Toby Travalega, for me, is someone that I think instantly makes them better. And you can see here, I agree with you, Digsby. Finishing pieces, something to fix the end of their goal. It's really, really interesting because I think Harry Perriman is that kind of hybrid player they need. But this would be a really interesting one because Joe Berry would fit the need there as well. Definitely a point of difference there. If I was them, and I hate to say this as a Carlton fan, I'd look at Liam McMahon as well. Late in the draft pick. It's going to be interesting because obviously the new Leeds man is there. This is going to be the first off-season now that Dodoro's stepped behind doing contracts as well. So this is going to be the first time that he's got a free hall pass, and it's going to be weird. But I agree. I mean, if you can get something for Stringer, it'll be very interesting what they do. Fremantle are really interesting because what I said about Richmond, where I don't quite buy into the Shai Bolton hype, when I look at Fremantle, I feel like they need a Shai Bolton type. I agree, Wooden Spoon. And picks 9 and 10, I think one of these will piss off, but I feel like they need glue types between their lines. So I feel like Ryan needs someone to help halfback get to midfield. I feel like midfield needs someone to get forward, and half forward needs to get to full forward. And it's real interesting with what Fremantle will do. But I feel like Harvey Langford and Shai Bolton are two fantastic little acquisitions for them because I feel like they're brilliant little players playing across half forward. I like you saying, Digsby, 200 years old. So I don't mind Fremantle's year. I feel like it's fair because I had them like bottom 5. So they've surpassed my expectations, but not too much. And then we come to Collingwood. Collingwood, obviously, you know, Alex Davis is probably my number one priority if I was Collingwood. 32 and 48, though, going into this draft, you're literally at the arse end, the knob end, as we call it in the UK, the ends of the bread of these drafts. So Tom Sims, for me, is someone that I'd be looking at. If I was Collingwood's list manager, he's probably going to be there in the late 30s. He's a key project, tall. And you know what's quite funny about Collingwood? I don't think they've had a fucking tall forward. Well, they definitely haven't a tall forward since I have been here. Mitch Giardot, that's a great shout, mate. Hey, Tracy, how are you, darling? But Tom Sims is that type of player that I do see a lot of Myercheck in him, that I feel like he's going to be a good learner and a good sponge. And I feel like Tim Membry coming there as a stopgap would be a great acquisition for them. Someone who's ready now, who's a specialist at playing smalls in. And I think next year's the target. It would be interesting if when everyone's after like little players, be interesting to see if you try and give up some players here, Collingwood. I know there's a few of you in chat, so I gave them a 5 out of 10. Max King, I think, would be the dream, but it'd be interesting if they go like full hawk, as they say. But it's one of them ones, isn't it, that you look at it and it's tough to look at. But, I mean, that being said, chat, throw in your questions. If you want to pop in, we'll have a little bit of a chat. So if you want to jump in, come and chat some football with me. Come in. We'll talk some football. We'll talk some off-season, talk some trade targets. We'll talk some, well, whatever you want, really. You lead it. But there's the link if you want to come in to chat, ask some draft questions. It's beautiful and warm, Sandra. It is beautiful and warm. It's freezing down here. I'm at the arse end of the ground, so it's tough. But got our first guest. This is a debutant here. Big Woody. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, very good, mate. How are you?
Hey, mate, I can't complain, my friend. Can't complain. What can we do for you, my friend?
Well, I guess I wanted to know what your thoughts are for St Kilda. I suppose with replacing Battle, I think we've got a fair few tools that kind of potentially could go into that spot now. But I wonder what your thoughts are, because I don't know if I've heard you speak about some of our second tiers too much. I'm a St Kilda fan, in case anybody didn't notice, didn't see. But yeah, essentially, yeah, with that, I think we could potentially move like Keeler there, or Caminiti there. Keeler's been playing a little bit in the seconds there. I also think it'd be interesting if, considering we don't have to spend the money on Battle, we could potentially go after a Lachyjack type. I was kind of wondering what your thoughts might be. What do you think our best plan of attack is?
You see, Isaac Keeler is someone that I love. So I was hot on him in the draft. And when you moved him down back, when I've been watching Sandy, it did actually turn me on a little bit, because when he gets a bit lost in the forward line, that was his problem with the juniors. Like, his ruck work was okay, but at times it felt like he got a bit lost. But his attack on the ball is sensational. Yep. I just feel like he needs another Cal Wilkie to learn off, because Cal Wilkie now has got that responsibility, and he's already your best defender, but now he's got to be your best defender. There's no if buts maybes. It's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Because you've got to St Kilda. There's a guy who I keep thinking about, and that's Noah Bolter and Lee Kalia, two guys that if I got some picks, do they want to stick around? Because Lee Kalia, obviously, Sam Taylor's signed long term, and he was probably hoping Sam Taylor would be swayed. Yep. I reckon he's gettable, but I think Noah Bolter, he's been there for the flag. He's seen all of his mates retire, especially Dylan Grimes. Suddenly now, he has got to do what Dylan Grimes did, step in to a shithole and fix it. Is he the type of player that you guys maybe banter that first rounder and say, we'll pay you maybe 150, 200 more, but at least you're in the contention, as opposed to doing a rebuild again?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I like in a lot of regards, I think our backline's been really solid, and we really needed to work on a couple of pieces to make St Kilda work. Obviously, midfield is a big one. Like, lose center clearances like crazy. We're not too bad on stoppage clearances, but center clearances are definitely pretty bad. And that kind of transition into forward line as well, where you're going through a lot of those players, getting it into the forward line. That's where there's been an issue. We've worked on the outside clearly, but yeah, there's things that are fairly good there. So I think we really needed to work on that inside midfielder, and with losing Battle, it kind of throws a bit in the air. I'd like to see Hammer put back there, Caminiti put back there again. There's a couple of matches this year where he's tried there, and he did all right for the limited experience he has. And I'd also, it kind of makes me question, like, do we, as you said, just kind of bite the bullet on one of those picks that we get, and just kind of say, well, we could maybe go and get somebody of kind of equal stature with those sort of things. I like the idea of maybe going after Davies and Lachyjack, pulling kind of a similar thing to what we did with like Dempster and Schneider many moons ago. And I think, there's a few options there to kind of keep building while using those picks, get one of those kids that are a mid in, and keep going in the right direction without full rebuilding. Because I think you're right, we don't have to full rebuild, but it is a potential if wanted.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the battle picks meant to be around that pick 8, 9, 10 range, isn't it? So that would give you like two
Hopefully.
picks. Yeah, two
Yeah.
picks in like the sexy range.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
mean,
Definitely.
it would. I mean, if you could, let's just say Richmond said, right, pick 7, and we'll give you a future second back for Bolter. Let's just say that was the trade. That would probably be really tempting to pair like a Luke Trainer up all of a sudden with your next pick and go, right, we can play him as the interceptor, Wilkie and Battle take the keys, and then we've got the backup plan. And suddenly that back line, because I agree, your back line, even though it doesn't look amazing on paper, and as a Carlton fan, I always look at your back line and go, we should kill you. We should
Yep.
kill you. But it's effective. It's so effective. So I don't think you're one of them teams that wants to throw that out of balance. Like, Sam Frost, we talked about him just earlier. I think he's a really interesting proposition for a club because I don't think Hawthorn are going to use him anymore.
I can't see a spot for him. Yeah.
Yeah, but where if I was in your position, we've lost a key, maybe he's a good stopgap while we maybe use a pick in our 30s on a key defender. We give Isaac Keeler another year in VFL, and at least we've got him as a stopgap because that's all Sam Frost has been for Hawks. You can tell they've had this plan. We're going to get Barras and Battle. We're going to get some keys in. All you've got to do is stand there and be a body for a year while we get something else. And I think Frost has proved he's AFL okay. Might not be great, but he's AFL okay.
Yeah, he seems to hold up to standard required. Does the job on the big guys as well, which not all key defenders do a great job there. So yeah, definitely one. Like, there's a few that could be looked at in that spot. I think we're hopefully not going to go down the full rebuild path. I like the kids we've picked up, and I think we've got a reasonable helm of what's turning into experience with I suppose Steele and Sinclair and those guys starting to become the older brigade. So I think we just kind of need to keep pushing a little bit, and Battle's a fairly big loss in a lot of regards in terms of getting the right direction going. But yeah, I'd hate to see us go down the full rebuild path. It's a little bit. It's been too long. It's been too long.
You know what? I'm quite hot on your list. People are mean about St Kilda, and it might be because my wife is a Saints girl. But
yeah, you've mentioned that a couple of times. That's why I love you, Paul.
Well, I look at your team and I just think it's not that bad. Like, I actually think St Kilda has got its role players, and no one talks about like Wanganeen Milwera. Like, what a pickup! Like, from nowhere. I feel like you've got all the tools to play modern day football. You're just lacking maybe 2 or 3 players that do the dirty stuff, and I don't think it'll take long. Like, I think Max King, once he gets a full season, I don't think people realize how good he is. And I'd love to ask you a question. I said it when you lost Membry. I don't think Membry's a loss because I don't think Membry works with Max King. I think Max King now, it's a little bit like watching Count when we had Wheater and Liam Jones. Max King's mature enough now to play off his man and attack the ball. He doesn't need someone doing that for him. I would be interested in your thoughts of, I think you need a full forward, someone that's going to dominate the goal square and let him be sexy and let him dance. And what do you feel like Tom Lynch? There is rumours Richmond want to sell him for a second. They're willing to get rid of him. What about that for a year? Put him in the goal square and maybe drafting a Harry Armstrong or someone.
I mean, I do like the idea. I think for me, I've always thought that you're kind of right that Memory and King don't really work together. Memory's kind of a small full forward. Like he's not really like a half forward flank type, and he's not really he's not really a center half forward. He's not great at running up and then kind of getting back. So he's okay, but I suppose what I'd say is I don't love them sharing. I'm of one of two opinions. I think you either let King have it one out and kind of don't worry about Membry. You can move him on. I think Sharman's taking that role fairly close to it anyway. So yeah, I think for me, we could move Membry on. We could let King sit one out in the goal, or as you said, you move King up the ground more, and kind of let him roam a little bit further to get his hands on it. He's got a fairly big boot, so he could probably kick a couple from sort of the 40-50 mark anyway. So I think there's two ways to go about it. I personally would like to see St Kilda ditch the idea of a second kind of key forward, drop Rowan Marshall into that spot, and then look at like Ivan Soldo or somebody that kind of works as an assistant there. Maybe a little bit better in the forward line if possible than Soldo, but I think for me that'd be the way to try right now without like worrying about building up too many kids. Rucks go around the league all the time; they're a bit easier to get to. So I think it's one of those two ways. You either pick up a cheaper forward person. I don't even think. I know he's kind of on the outer from what I can understand. Similar sort of requests in terms of what he'd be requiring to get. So yeah, it's Darling, Lynch, maybe a Soldo for Rowan Marshall to go forward. That'd be my kind of thoughts.
Mate, I love it. Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the Saints in action next year. I'm sick of losing to you guys. You're our bogey team.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm enjoying it. But yeah, no, at the same time, I'm keen for next year, that's for sure. I'm keen to see you guys go through these finals, and I hope you do well, mate.
Cheers, mate. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Woody. And we'll be doing this once a week, so I hope to see you as a regular, mate.
Likewise, I'll definitely be in, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Lucinda, how are you, my darling?
I am good. I was actually asleep about an hour ago and I woke up and I was like, fuck off, it's not PM. How the hell did that happen? And then it took me about half an hour to actually realize, no, you felt tired and you actually just feel like you've had 10 hours sleep in 3 or 4. So now I've, basically intercepted myself and got my night back on track and have still been able to have my premeditated appearance. So I'm kind of having like a yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, you didn't beat me, I got to see my dance, so fuck you, fuck off, and now I can hit the ground running and have fun.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. So we've got our sexy like little manifesting tool here, which I've shown this side and this side, but now that we've had finals, like cemented at least, I can show the we can show the business. Well, shit, I can try. This is a score review system. Okay, you know what? I'm going to actually rig it a tiny bit by having it, balancing like this where the sticks always are, and we'll just make sure it's going the right way. Okay, now we can just see the magnificence. We're trying not to have motion sickness for the final bit.
So we've got Harry Mackay on the right, in it? On the left?
We've got Mackay, then we've got Fev, and then we've got Kerno. So we've got 2 existing Colemans, so you have to fucking respect them, so fuck off. I mean, it's not like you could have like bloody Fev do more than a joke appearance at this point. So this little, not so little, well, let's actually have a look. Inflate to 69 kPa, grass surface, size 5. Yeah, it's like well, I've gendered a football, but there you go. Whatever, it's a she. If she's telling me it's a she, then whatever. I thought footballs were non-binary, but whatever. Either way, if the football is sensing that, that's good for me. But the reality is that is the tool that they're using. So for me as a manifester and or efficacy effective person, you can't get more method than what that football is. Now, that wasn't my main goal, pun intended, of when I got her, whatever. Obviously it was the signatures, and then the actual buoyoid benefits have, come in stages, and it's been awesome. So when you're ready, we can talk where we are on the ladder in this match and stuff. And so, yeah.
So what do you think Carlton are going to do this weekend? Big game against Brisbane. You've got your manifesting ball. We've deduced it's female.
Yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, I think Carlton has to prove to themselves that they can be fucking in control the whole bloody time from the get-go, and that they can have a significant win. Like, who's to say they can't go there and say, hey, fuck you, we're Carlton, we're going to win by 70 points. Sorry that you only thought you're going to, only win by 1. Who the fuck says we have to play to your script? We can write our own, as we're kicking kick to kick. So we can have oh shit, where do they come from thrashing, which is so not realistic. They probably will win by 2 or 5 goals, or they can fucking do a rinse repeat of the prelim, be up by 6, and then, get another, several goals, 4 or 5. And then this time when they have, another 8 kicks. Say, no, fuck you. We were eliminated. We're lucky to fucking be here. Fucking kick straight and fucking, own the shit. Don't, just fluke a victory after Port basically finals assist you. And then, like I said this to Christine in person when we were against, St Kilda. I said, like, we basically have to win 3 to 4 grand finals before the grand final. So fucking bring that energy. I wanted it wrenched away for a few hours so that you could just like slaughter and or exercise the 2022 missing out demons, pun intended. Get back into like the, energy of a preliminary final. Now this is the upward trajectory. Fuck you. We deserve this of 2023. And then, you have okay, you can't say Carlton didn't deserve it if they flagged the sort of handsome or miraculously achieved victory of a 2024 flag, which by the way is still possible. I don't care what people say. I mean, sure, it could be radical optimism or toxic positivity, or it could just be the manifesting that gets it done. So fuck you. Why should we, have okay, we probably should have gotten to finals that way, given how we forfeited second, fourth, whatever. Like we deserved to have a low, kick up the ass, wake up. Well, yeah, but if you get to a grand final, basically with grand finals like football, before you've even started the first bounce on the real thing, like more than just dress rehearsals, but you've basically won like the equivalent of like 4 or 5 grand finals in the final 4 or 5 matches, and you win the grand final by 17 points just because you're being a fucking smartass. There's no one, even with Essendon, Collingwood out there, like if you have got like victories against those caliber sides, and then you're like, well, you thought we went the caliber side, fuck you, essentially. So essentially they needed to have the deja vu punishment and the reinstated upward trajectory. So I'm not going to say here that I wanted the loss. I didn't. I wanted the fact that Mott's could have saved the bloody match, right? But the reality is I manifested more for the romantic, scenario where we can get rid of the 2022 bullshit, be in sync with 2023, and then friendly opinion and, popular opinion actually fucking win, the same stage as 2023 and then usurp it by, winning the whole competition in 2024. So, it's just, it is what it is. It's just, you have to take your opportunities. And I'm not saying that Carlton wouldn't have been as hungry had they won and then Port just says, oh, by the way, you would have made it even if you hadn't, blah, blah, blah. It's like they, feel it a lot more, right? Because it was taken away. So they're like, oh, great. So we dodged, the, fuckery of 2022. Okay, we haven't had it bloody stolen, like, our own fault, really, with a few shit kicks in 2023 in the prelim. And holy shit, the chance is alive. We're fucking here for a reason. I mean, you're second for so many weeks. I'm not going to count how many because it's not relevant to where they are. Yes, they're fucking lucky to be there. Now they have to prove to me and the whole, I don't know, 100,000 members and or the many, you'd probably say up to 1 million, if not more, actual supporters that they deserve to be there. Then if they do fluke a 60-point win out of nowhere, then of course they're going to be invigorated. But who cares if they win like 4 1-pointers and then like they, just win the grand final by 1 because, wouldn't that be funny? And it's decided in the last, 12 to 14 seconds in a similar situation that could have, meant that they don't even have a final, let alone a grand final. So, whatever, you just have to manifest the ridiculous, but you actually have to practically manifest as well.
Well, you love the manifestation, and you know what? I'm fired up, Lucinda. You've got me fired up. Let's manifest the final together, right? All right. So Sydney GWS, who are you manifesting win that?
Shit. What are their usual last 5 appearances against each other margin wise? Like, do you have like how it's done?
See what I can find out for you. Hey, you could come a nice guy, eh? I'm a nice guy.
Well, you're a nice guy.
Tell you what, you putting me on the spot on my own show. Right, let's have a look. Last 5. The last 5 versus each other.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. Oh, there we are. Right, so Sydney won the last one. 2, 3. Sydney have won the last 3.
Okay, so that goes out the window in finals. So what's the like law of averages margin, or even better, you can just tell me like from most outward, like say 2019 to like the last match they played, like just what I need is to basically see repetitive themes, like if there's been two results of 14 to like 24, for example, and then if there's like an almost identical margin, like they've both won by 31, for example. That's what I'm kind of looking for in my sort of, where I'm getting the vibe from.
Okay. So in the last 5, it's 4 wins to 1 with GWS, with the biggest win being by 129 to Sydney.
Oh, that's not happening. Well, I mean,
and 49 is GWS's biggest win.
Okay.
And in the last 5, it's been 30, 20. It's roughly a 20-point win to Sydney every time they play. The last 10, it's about 4 goals.
So that tells me, like, if it's neck and neck in like the final 10 minutes, it can be thrown either way. But then again, you can be in the lead and just not keep it in the center or down your end in the final 30 seconds and have games stolen. So I think we will know if it's a tight match pretty much all 3 quarters, and if one's just gonna do a Melbourne Cup and say, ha, you thought you were winning, and then they don't speed ahead. That tells me it goes either way. It depends on who's hungry, and I think that's GWS for me. I think head says talent and experience Sydney, but I'm going for the upset with GWS because fuck it, and it'll just be funny to have Jesse versus Charlie, who's really like the finals actual dominant goal kicker. And if it's like 50-55 goals each, then you can say, well, screw you, we're both as good as the other, go fuck yourself.
Well, we'll obviously pick Carlton. Then Dogs versus Hawthorn. Who are you thinking here?
Shit. Well, the same process applies, but I just say Hawthorn wants it because they're doing a 2023 Carlton. They're not going to fuck around.
Oh, and then Port Adelaide, Geelong. Probably the most important game of this round.
Port wins because they're going to be like, hey, we let you in. Now you have to eliminate us. You have to like test Carlton's like killer instinct. Now Port wins. I don't need any stats. Fuck off.
Sydney Carlton at the SCG.
Carlton, fuck off. We fuck off Sydney. No, just fuck off. We win.
Cats,
I don't care. No,
Cats,
we just
Hawks.
yeah, fuck it. Oh, okay. This is very sexy. I want Geelong to win in paper because they're more inaccurate under pressure, even in finals. But I just think it's just too funny not to have Hawthorn in this situation because then you have the ultimate revenge match in the granny. So fuck it. So no. We can do like both. We can see what that looks like. I suppose let's see. This is like the realistic. Okay.
I like this because I mean, this could be the greatest final of all time.
Yeah, I reckon Carlton says fuck you very much, so we'll just shove us in there. The margin's just a formality. Giants break Hawthorn's heart. Fuck it.
Heard it here first. Lucinda's predicted our path to the final. I love it.
Being awake for half an hour, and then obviously, that's
and
funny.
Then we win the final, and I'll be drunk about 6 hours after that. So that's good.
Yeah.
Win. Well, Lucinda, it was great seeing you yesterday at the Jumper Punch 2 days ago, and great seeing you now. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, I was like I said, I woke up at like 7:03. So the fact that I could pull that out of my ass, like Carlton has no excuses. Fuck off.
Lucinda, love you to pieces. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon. I'm going to finish my dinner while listening, but then I will be back into Manifest chatting like when I sort of get hyperactive.
Enjoy dinner. Thank you very much.
No worries, Dan. See you soon.
Save me from Manchester United's doom. Aiden, how are you doing?
I had to watch probably the worst midfield performance by Casemiro last night. And then I had to watch Salah tear us a new arsehole again. And then I had to watch all our midfield disappear. So my day.
Hey, good times. Just imagine doing that hungover, because I was a little bit hungover after the JP event. And then I went out on the beers again to watch Man United Liverpool. So I am running on empty at the moment.
I would have been punching people if I were you at a pub or something or somewhere. But
It crossed my mind. But how are you feeling? Big finals weekend?
I said at the start of the year that I don't want to be in the position where we were last year, where we had to do it the hard way. And unfortunately, it's bit me back in the ass. So we have to do it the hard way again because this club loves doing everything hard. I actually feel confident. I can't lie. There's just we've got this. I don't know. There's just something about them that, like when I look at how the boys have spoken the last month about, for example, there's plenty of chapters left to be written this season. There's like all that type of cliche stuff. It's like that they like really want it. Like as much like I've said it, like, do they really want the flag? Do they really want top 2? Do they really want top 4? But I feel like coming into the, like I said it to my dad yesterday. Like, I'm glad that we made finals because anyone can do it from any position this year. And if there's a team that can cause an upset, because we're heading into this final series as a massive underdog, like everyone's written us off. Everyone's basically saying every negative little part about us. And the one thing that can fuel us up is through that negativity. And look what happened last year. Everyone wrote us off during that tough patch. Everyone wanted Vossi to go, and we ended up in a prelim. So I feel like we've found a little bit of form, especially from individuals as well. Like Walsh, I feel like in the last couple of weeks, especially in the Saints game, he's found some pretty good form. But I feel like we needed the bye week because we're going to get a lot of players back. And yeah, I just feel really confident. So
I like that. Hey, Aiden, I love a little bit of confidence, mate. I love a bit of confidence. Like, big question though. I saw it on Blue Abroad, Let Dog, and everyone was chatting. Sam Doherty, let's just say Thursday morning, he does his fitness test. The results come back totally fine to play. He goes up to Vossi. Vossi says, "Are you ready to play?" And he says, "Put me in." TDK says, "Put him in." I mean, Crip says, "Put me in." Put him in. Is he playing? Would you be playing him?
You know, I don't even know. I don't know. Like, because by what I've been hearing and all that, and what I've been seeing, people have been saying that it looks like that he hasn't missed a heartbeat. Like, he looks ready, and he just looks ready to go. And I feel like the one thing that worries me, it's like the conditions up there. Like, it's going to be wet. It's going to be like fairly dewy. Like, the ground's going to be really slippery. And I really worry that if he goes in for a contest and if he slips, will that affect like his movement? Because don't forget, like, he's done a lot of training, and if everyone's saying like he's in the best shape that he's been in all year, and if that's true, then how do we actually know that? Like, because he might think that he's 100%, but at the same time, he might be 95%, and 5% can really. It's like a game. Like, if you're 5% off, it can change momentum. And if he's 5% not there yet, I wouldn't consider it. But at the same time, I've said that imagine the G-up that the boys will get, that he will get when he comes on, like, and the type of motivation that the whole group will get just by seeing how an absolute warrior that he's been throughout this whole season. He's worked his ass off to come back. Like, I feel like when he got done, like I said if he's going to come back, he's going to play finals. And I feel like he circled that in his calendar. And by the boys seeing him train, work his ass off, and if he's playing, I'm really confident that will give the boys an extra 5% of motivation to try not only get the job done, but to also try and win the flag for him as well. Because we all know what he's gone through. He's gone through cancer. He's gone through 3 knee reconstructions. And if there's this one person that you want to win for, it has to be him. So I feel like we do play him, but as a sub.
Do you know what? I'm with Gokhan here, right? The way I think of it is this way, like, risk reward, right? I think we'd all agree if he does another ACL, heaven forbid that happens, it's probably the end of his career. But he can do an ACL round 12, round 8, pre-season. I think if he's good to go and there is a risk which won't change wherever it is, like, what better way to do an ACL in a final? Like, if that happens, I think he'd want to retire in a final. So I'd say if he looks at me in the eye and say, I'm ready to play, I'm playing him. Because I agree with you. I think him being out there, if I'm Cripps, I want him there. If I'm Walsh, I want him there. And you know what? I know everyone's raving about Bins, but I'd drop Bins tomorrow for Sam Doherty.
And this is
all day long.
Yeah. This is where I was gonna say something else. Like, if he's confident that he's good to go and if he's banging the door down, then it's really up to him. Like, you can't say no. Like, if he's confident that he's fine, then play him. Because as you said, like, it's a final. Like, even Vossi mentioned that before. And I saw a little clip. Like, there's going to be a lot of risks in this team selection. Now, in finals, there's risks which may end up in a reward. Now, Doherty playing is a massive risk, but if it ends up making us win a flag, so be it. So, yeah, and if I'm a player out there, if I'm seeing him go into contests, working his ass off, I'd kill myself. Like I feel like my opinion is that these players, they will get an extra gear just seeing him play.
Oh, and just think of the crowd. I think crowd is everything. Like, just imagine the noise. Because I think the way to beat Brisbane, and here's my theory, and tell me if I'm being an idiot, and chat, tell me if I'm being an idiot, but I look at Brisbane and I think they've failed in finals. They managed to get to a grand final last year, and I think they were so disappointing. I know that it was close, but I think that was as bad a grand final as I've seen someone play. I think if they go out this year, the first quarter is everything. If we do what we did last year in the finals and get ahead by 30, Brisbane ain't coming back. The pressure's too much. And I think Doc could be key to that. Say, go hard for a half, attack the ball hard, get the ball inside 50. Yeah. And the crowd is going to lift when Doc's around that ball, isn't he?
Yeah, like, this is where I like, we haven't got top 4, but imagine if we just had top 2 and we played them at the G and the announcer announces his name, the rev up, the whole stadium would just come into light. But yeah, as you said, like we played shit against them. We were down by 50 against them. Like, we've played against them, and we've were down by every scoreline against them as well. Like, even if we're down in the first quarter by a fair bit, I've still got confidence that we can come back. Like, I feel like we've got a little mental edge against them. So,
mate, that'll play on their mind. Like, that round 0 will play in their mind. But I watched the prelim back. I know Terry's been telling everyone to watch round 0. I've been watching the prelim quite a bit. And I think if you watch that prelim, I'm telling you, if we have that quarter that we had the first quarter in the finals against them in this game, they're done. Because they've effectively lost 3 quarters in a row to Carlton. Yeah, that'll be huge for them. The pressure the Brisbane will go quiet if we get 30 ahead, and all we've got to do is keep doing it. So I'm excited. Prediction before I let you go, Aiden.
I reckon we will win by 20 points. It will be another fourth quarter special. It will be really tight come end of the third quarter. And then that last 10 minutes, I normally say Vossi time, which is like Fergie time, just bang, 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 bang. But I just want to ask you just a question. I don't know if you did like who we may pick up in the draft, but like, who are we potentially in for with our pick? Because I understand that this draft is stacked with talent, and we're fortunate enough to get pick 11 or pick 10. So in that area, like, who would you think that we may go for?
There's a few players. I've got a sneaky feeling Carlton go for Tom Gross. I've got a huge feeling that Carlton do something and get Tom Gross in there. Goal kicking midfielder who suits Voss's game plan of being really, really heavy on the defence. So I think there's a few players there that they'll like who are goal-kicking mids, but I think he's the closest one that is what Voss wants as well, because he isn't weak on his defensive side of the game. So I would really like him. I think he walks into the club and he's somewhere between like Matt Kennedy, but with the ability of Elijah Hollins. So he's got that toughness, which probably Elijah lacks, but he's got that ability. He's got that ability like Elijah has, that he can break the game open. And I think that would be the perfect acquisition in that pick.
Interesting. Now, with selection, who are you going to bring in? Now, with me, I want at least Lord or Ashton to play, because I feel like you need to give these kids like a bit of experience, and I feel like they kind of deserve it, saying that like how much they've worked hard in the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, I feel like personally, I would keep Lord. I feel like if you give these kids like experience on what a big final's like, it will probably impact their career like for the better. So, who would you bring in and who would you take out?
You know what? I'd be quite bold here. I'd go Mitch McGovern. I think you've got to bring Mitch McGovern, Harry, Charlie. I think Zach Williams will play, and Doc. And I feel like they'll take out Binns, Ashton, Moyer, Durden, and I think they'll take out Kemp. And I think Young stays to play on their bigs. And I think that they'll play Doc across the original plan, half forward and midfield.
What about the third tall? Will we need a third tall?
I don't think they'll go in with a third toe. I genuinely don't. I think Voss will look at the Gabba and learn his lesson that being on the ground is where we beat him last time.
Yeah.
So I think he'll bring Zach back to replace Owies, and I think he'll bring Doc in as that kind of hybrid what Durden was playing higher up the ground, and I think he'll give Motlop one more chance.
Hopefully, but yeah. Thanks for having me on, Pommy. It was good seeing you on Saturday.
Much love, mate. I'm sorry. I'm sorry Man United is shit.
No, it's all good. At least Carlton are doing well.
Hey, but one of them's got to fucking win something for us.
But we will be talking about Sydney next week or GWS.
Mate, I can't wait. I fucking hate them Sydney clubs.
Anyway, I'll see you next week when we talk about
Peace,
GWS.
Mate. See you soon.
See ya. Bye.
Holden! How we doing, mate?
I'm doing good, Bobby. How you doing, mate?
Hey, mate, I haven't seen you sober for a while.
You haven't seen me drunk either.
No, but the last time I saw you, I was drunk.
You were. How'd you pull up?
I was good. Oh, I was good, mate. I was good.
That's good. I just wanted to ask a couple of things with the draft you were going on about before. If chances are we're getting rid of Sammy Durden and also Marchbank, who do you think they'll go for in that defence? I know we've got Lewis Young, and he can be a hit and miss. At the moment, he's doing really well, and I'm happy for him. But I don't know whether he's a long-term prospect. Who do you think they'll go for? Do you think they could go for a Noah Bolter? Do you think would have the capital to get him? You know, like, would we waste like an early draft pick on him? You were talking about Lachyjack, I think it was before. Could we get him, and if so, what would that cost? Would that be future picks or an early pick this year? I know the Campo twins are coming, but they're more in the mid to back part of the draft. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. So with our picks, that'll be like around our second pick. We'll definitely get one bite at the draft cherry because we're very lucky that this draft is filled with the same types of midfielders as Ben and Lucas. They've slid down. So that's a good win. That's a win.
Well, true. But you know, if someone bids on them, we have to match if we want them, correct?
Yeah. So,
So we'd
but
have to
at
use-
this stage, a club would be very stupid to do. And I would say, if I was Nick Austin and that bid came in before our first, I'd probably not match it.
Okay. So they're good, but they're not that good.
Yeah, I think they're it's a shame they weren't last year when we were desperate for wing mids. It's a shame, but I do think we'll get them at a cut price this year.
Okay. What about someone like I remember you talking about Noah Bolter, like he would be a good match for us. Do you think he'd be a bit too hard to get, like to pry him out of Richmond? In the sense, like, what would we give up? Like, we'd have to give up pick 11 or pick 10, whatever one we got. Would that be a bit high for him? Or do you think that would get it done?
Well, you see, I think when you look at Richmond's picks this year, I think if you were going in for Bolter, I think I'd be asking for something in return, but I'd be trying to unsettle the player. And it doesn't often happen in AFL, but if I was Nick Austin, I'd be releasing that article in the press because they've got 21 and 29.
Yep.
So if we maybe said, look, we will give you pick 11 and we want 21 and 29 and Carlton maybe give them a future third or a future second. But I'd be trying to get Bolter to push his way out and say he wants to go out because genuinely they're going to get about 2 top 10 picks for the players they're losing. So that instantly makes their reason to sell a bit less, but it does make what you pay a little bit less. Genuinely, teams who are rebuilding undervalue their players when they've got loads of compensation coming from elsewhere. But I think Noah Bolter's the type of player that if you came out now as a top 8 club like Carlton are and said he's our priority, we'd love a type of player like Noah Bolter, and you try and get inside his head, there's not much Richmond could do because he's out of contract next year, Noah Bolter. So suddenly they're potentially losing him at a cut price next year for Carlton to come in now. The AFL doesn't often do this, though, because everyone's nice. But I would genuinely now be name-dropping Noah Bolter's name everywhere I go if I was Nick Austin.
Okay. If you wanted Bolter. Like, I think he'd be a good fit in our as a lockdown and allow Weeties to be that run-off defender rather than the lockdown defender.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Kalia, I think, is a cheap option. My issue with Lee Kalia is he's unproven to an extent.
Yeah.
Like he's played 12 games. Where Noah Bolter, I can guarantee he's going to lock down any key forward I put on him.
Yeah. But I don't know.
Risk-free.
The other thing for him, do you think he could be their next captain after Nank?
I do, but this is why I think if I was Noah Bolter, I've been through the flag. I've had to fight to get in the team.
Yep.
I've seen every good key defender retire and me get my job, me get a job. And then now suddenly I've gone from learning to now I'm the guys who was holding me together when I first came in here.
Yep.
And Noah Bolter's already won a flag. Like he's in the prime of his life, mid-20s. He might never see it again. Looking at rebuilds, they're about 5 years. This could be the end of his career. Like,
I think Richmond are that far off. It's ridiculous. They're almost us at 215. If Bolton, Rioli, and a couple of those others leave, they are going to be gutted. They'll have nobody. They'll be lucky to win a game next year. I think they'll be just so bottomed out, it'll be ridiculous.
Mate, genuinely, like, honestly, he would be, like, I would give up pick 11 and not take a pick in the first round. If it was Noah Bolter, I think that is the final jigsaw piece in our puzzle.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I think we need a goal kick in mid, definitely, but I do think if you could say to me, I can get you a top 30 key defender to go with Wheater in, I'd be like, okay, cool. Let's do that first.
Absolutely. The other one I was looking at, like, do you see anybody in the VFL that could be a possible inclusion. Like, we're not going to have too much to play with once if we hypothetical, we use pick 10, 11, whether it be on Bolter or whether it be on that goal kicking mid you're talking about. We're going to use the Campo twins, so that'll be our second and third pick, maybe our fourth pick. If we move on, potentially 6 players this year, which chances are we probably will. Do you fill them up with some VFL players? Like, do you think there's one or two kids in our VFL that could get a go? Like, is it Adrian Marr? Is not Adrian Marr. Xavier
Liam
Marr.
McMahon? Xavier Mayer, yeah.
Yeah, and the other one, Ned Carr. Do you think he could be that small forward that we're missing, or do you think we're going to have too many?
I feel like we've got with small forwards. I feel like we have to sell one.
Yep.
Because we've put all of our eggs in the small basket, and it's a shit basket at the minute. No offense to Motlop and Durden, but all two of them at the moment, in my opinion, should be way past Matty Owens. Matty Owens is, in my opinion, just doing his job, and he's got 30 goals and he's rewarded for doing basics. Liam McMahon is one that I'd maybe have a sniff at.
Yeah, I was going to say him as well. The one thing I did notice, like, I watched a little bit of the VFL, but Ned Carl, he's got that small forward roll down pat. I find him a better, smaller forward than Durden. It comes natural to Ned Carl. I know he's a little bit older too and a little bit more mature, but he plays that small forward role better. Now, it's a bit hard because you're in the VFL. Has he got that ability when he comes up with the big boys, so to speak? You know what I mean? Like, does he shine well playing in the VFL but won't shine in the AFL? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, it's a tough one because, like, there's no, like, I mean, we've seen it, haven't we? Nick Graham.
There before. Like, he was at Essendon, I think, a few years ago. But, you know, it's like some players, just late developers. Like, he looks like he's just been a later developer and has really come into it, because when you see him play in the VFL, he does that small forward role really, really well. Like, he reads the ball off the pack really good.
I think he's a real interesting one in the terms of, at the moment, he's playing off Liam McMahon, who isn't really AFL ready yet, but he's nearly there. And he's been playing off Lemmy like babies effectively. It would be interesting if you put him off two key forwards as good as Harry and Charlie, like, because his goal sense is phenomenal, and he did have that at Essendon.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, and I know that half forward, small forward in the VFL is hard to dominate in the VFL because you're not getting the entries, the quality entries like you do in the AFL. You don't have the quality big men feeding you the ball, you know, like tapping it down to you if they can't mark it, like Charlie and Harry do as they bring it to the ground. So you have a little bit more opportunity in the ones as opposed to the twos, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I mean, for me, it's a risk-free recruitment. I mean, I would say Essendon probably needs small forwards, so they're probably looking at Ned Carl and going, whoops, because the guys they've replaced him with, they're not exactly doing brilliant either. And I think it's something he's added to his game. He's definitely there or thereabouts, and it'll be an interesting one what they do, because, I mean, I think Matt always resigns, and I think Carlton would be idiotic not to do it. Like, Jesse Motlop, though, intrigues me. Like, it does intrigue me if someone puts in a bid for him. I wouldn't be surprised someone offers him something.
I just hope Jesse's just having a down year because he had a mixed pre-season, an interrupted pre-season. He just hasn't got it going just yet. Because his first 2 years, he was progressing really well. And then this year, he was hit with injuries early, and he just looks lost. I don't know whether it's a mental loss or whether it's a physical loss. Does he feel like he's not wanted? Who knows? I mean, he just does not look like the same bloke he did last year or the year before. He just
I
looks like a
agree
shit.
with you.
Yeah,
It would be interesting though, because Vossi in preseason named Motlop by name. Like he was. It's not very often Motlop Vossi ever compliments a player in preseason, but Motlop and Elijah were two players Vossi said were brilliant.
well, he looked really well in the like I went to most of the practice runs that they had, the open days and that, and he looked on fire, Jesse. And then he hurt his foot, and that just sent him backwards, and he's just not recovered. So, you know, fingers crossed, it's just a form thing, you know, and he just can't seem to find that form. But no, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like I know, like you went through that list the other day where you went like who you're going to keep, who you're going to trade, who we should get rid of, and everything. Like you go through that and you're looking at least 6 players that we're going to move on. Now, if we nail this midfield the 2 Campo boys, we've got 3 holes that we need to fill it with someone. Do you know if there's any big backmen in the VFL or Sandful or the Waffle?
Not really that I think we'll target, and it's a shame because we haven't got any in the VFL list as well.
No,
It'd be awesome if we had like a 24-year-old backman who's learning his trade and he's shown it. I mean, I think Nick Haynes comes in and replaces one of them, which isn't exciting, but Sam Durden, part of the appeal, Nick Austin said, was as a maturity factor.
Yeah.
So people would learn off someone pretty good. And I don't think that's worked because Sam Durden's been injured more than Marchbank. So
yeah, well, there's something about the VFL, our VFL side down back. They're all made of glass. It's like a black hole down there in that VFL section. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and that's why I said I think Domaku stays with the change of the Category B rules.
Yep.
I think the club will just maybe extend him again on the Category B now that it can be 5 years providing they haven't played 10 games. So
okay.
I think the club will just go, well, we'll keep him once for 1 more year. And I think Marchbank, I'd be shocked to see Marchbank and Durden on the list. I think the club will wash their hands with it.
You have to.
But I mean, it's going to be interesting if they can pick up. Like, I think Lee Kali is the most gettable player we've talked about. Because if I'm him, I'm 23. I re-signed in the contract year that Sam Taylor was out.
Yep.
So maybe his agent thought 2 years from now, maybe Taylor moves to Victoria and Taylor's stayed.
So
maybe
he's the kid from GWS, isn't he?
Yeah. So maybe now his brain, if I'm him, I'm going to my agent and going, I ain't playing for 8 years. Harry Himmelberg's now a key defender.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I can't get past him. Find me a move. And I think that would be a cheap deal. I think that could be a future second and problem solved.
And he's a Melbourne boy, isn't he?
He is, yes. He's when he came over here, yeah, he settled in Melbourne. So
yeah,
I think he could be him. So like, I mean, he's junior year as well. He spent time up in South Australia as well. He's got family down this way as well. So he's got everything he needs. And I think he could be the jigsaw piece.
Hopefully.
Especially with Haynes coming. I think that's key because Haynes has done part-time backline work while he was injured. It's a familiarity as well for him.
So are we almost certain to get Nick Haynes?
Yeah, according to the press, we can only go on the press, but they reckon it's all been done, and GWS have said they're not standing in his way, so he'll just walk across.
Yeah, so he'll just be a backup. He'll be our Sam Durden type.
Yeah, so I mean that's what Sam Durden was meant to be, so we could pick up a pick 80 defender, and you had the maturity. But the problem is, as luck would have it, Sam Durden became Marchbank in injuries.
No.
So I agree with you. So I think even if Lee doesn't play, but I think that's the issue with Lewis Young as well. When everyone's, because I don't mind Lewis, full caveat, I'm a Lewis Young fan, but who the fuck is he learning off? Like, he's learning off Marchbank, who's in the physio room, Durden, who's in the physio room, and the poor guy's getting peppered in VFL. So it's not like he ever gets a chance to work with someone good in the VFL. He is Wheatering in the VFL.
Like, it's twofold with Young. Like, I like what he does as a lockdown defender. It's when he gets the ball, he just stops and props and he looks lost. And then he panics. And you see it in his eyes. Like, when he gets the ball, he doesn't know what to do. And then once he does, he starts to panic and he fluffs kicks and he fluffs handballs, basic stuff. And you just go, wow, what happened there? But, like, there was talk that him and Wheatering weren't getting along. The last couple of games I watched them play, because, like, we go every game, Wheatering and him were on field. They looked like they were getting along all right. Like, they weren't keeping away from each other, or there was no animosity. Wheatering was going up to him and coaching him on, so to speak. Like, once the ball's up the other end, he wasn't berating him or anything like that. You could see the confidence in his demeanor. So it wasn't like a put down. It was more like a lift up, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
I'm with you. I mean, I don't fully buy into the rumours Wheatering doesn't. I mean, I don't know Wheatering. I've only met him at functions and sat with him at the B&F for dinner and stuff, but he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that would go to work and have an issue with someone. Like, for me, I think you could play me next to Wheatering and Wheatering wouldn't give a shit as long as I did my job.
yeah.
But he'd be willing to play. I don't like some of the rumors I think got out of hand. Like, he's told Vossi he doesn't want to play if Young plays. Like, for me, people forget Lewis Young got Dogs into a final 2 years ago. Like, they had horrific injuries and he was sensational.
Well, look at him the first year that he played with us. When Wheatering went down, he stood up and he was rock solid down back for a good 8 weeks. Like, he really helped us sort of keep us alive when Wheatering went down against Collingwood that game when he'd done his shoulder.
Yeah. And so sometimes I feel like since Plowman left, Carlton need a Plowman. And I think Ollie Hollands and Lewis Young have flirted with being Carlton's new Plowman. Like, and I don't think it's fair because, to be honest, I don't think Lewis Young is there to be the second key. I think he's meant to be working on his game, and somehow, I blame Marchbank. This sounds harsh, but I blame Marchbank. Lewis Young's hate is Marchbank's fault, because if Marchbank could stay fit, you'd never have Lewis Young issues.
I have no idea how people just give it to Ollie Hollands. I just think, do you know what you're watching? Like, some people, you watch Ollie Hollands, he's 19, going on 20. The kid runs at 30 kilometres an hour. He runs 15 Ks a game. You go run 30 kilometres an hour and try and kick a ball and hit someone on the tit. There's not too many players that can do that in the league, let alone a kid. You know, even senior blokes can't do that. Now, our best players can't do that. I don't hear them talk about, like, Cripper can't do it. Hewitt, Walsh, they can't do it. Walsh is a fucking hack when he kicks the ball, yet no one hassles him. But Ollie does it, and it's like, oh, my God, he can't hit a target. And you go, do you realise what this kid can do? Like, do they not see those other things he does?
Mate, I'm with you. I mean, it's funny. I know the club do a player of the week, and it was quite funny because I did speak to a player, and they do like an internal player of the week.
Yeah.
And one of the weeks he won it was the week, and Petra's nailed it, was Ollie was getting sledged by fans, like saying drop him. And I did always find it quite amusing when I sat down with the player and the player told me, oh, your mate Ollie won it this week. Yeah. I did find it quite funny because I was like, he doesn't want to fucking trick Twitter. Like, he did.
Well, the one thing I've since the biggest thing that's killed guys is Supercoach. It's the fucking worst game. I play it, but for players, it is the worst thing because 90% of people are fans. Oh, he only got 16 kicks and he got 130. He only got 68 fantasy points. You think there's more to the game than fantasy points. It's like this whole Fantasia thing. Oh, he only got 4 kicks. And you think, well, did you actually go to the game and watch what he does? Or did you just listen to it on the radio? Or did you just read the stats after the game? Because it sounds like that's all you did. No clues. Anyway, mate, I'm going to love and leave you.
Mate, much love. John, thank you for being my chauffeur as well this weekend. I appreciate you.
Mate.
Mate, best chauffeur I've ever had.
No problems, buddy. All right, you take care. Talk to you later.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
Okay, mate. Bye-bye.
Jez, how are you doing, mate?
Oh, not bad. Pretty good. I saw you today. But at the function, the jumper, punch anyway.
Yes, I remember you, mate.
Yeah. I'm just talking about a couple of players. What do you think of Murkoff?
He's an intriguing one. I think if Carlton had more picks, he might be in trouble. But I think he may be fortunate that he's the least priority probably at our club at the moment. We don't need another ruck because TDK is our first and Pitternet can play football. So I think he may get a stay of execution this year.
Because he's so tall, like he makes Pitternet look small, how tall. I don't know how many centimetres he is, but he seems to be massive.
Yeah, he feels supernaturally tall as well. He's like
he's nearly 8 foot, 7 foot something. So I just thought, and then you look at Fantasia, and when I was looking at training on Saturday morning, I was closely looking how small he is. He seems to be the smallest player on the field in Carlton. I didn't know how small he was, right?
Yeah. Orazio's, fascinating Orazio as well, because I think he's like one. Let's have a look. Jesus, 178. I've dated. Some of my exes are taller than him. But yeah, he's small. I mean, he's a fascinating one as well, isn't he? Because I'm full caveat. I haven't hated his year. Like, I feel like he's been okay. Something happens when he gets the ball. Even though he doesn't get the ball sometimes, he seems to make things happen by him being around. So he's a fascinating player for Carlton. I think he's going to be very important next week in the finals.
Do you think we should play Durden? Like, I thought he was injured, right? And Corey had a quiet game. I know he's... And then, are we going to keep Mathew Owens? What's happening there with the... I mean, are they looking for someone else? What's the case of that?
It's fascinating because I'd love to know if it's the football club or Matty Owens, because if I was his agent, I'd be delaying this because the more goals he kicks, small forwards are not kicking many goals this year. He's like second on nearly every team's league goal kicking. I'd be making him wait because he's probably going to get more zeros on his contract the longer he waits. It's an intriguing one, Carlton haven't tied it up, though, because I felt like even at the bye, this would have been a priority because he was head and shoulders above the next best at Carlton. But I do think he'll stay. But I do think because it's gone so long, it's probably cost us 50 to 100K on his contract. He's probably got a big fat pay rise.
Who's the trade bait for Carlton to get players who we can let go? I mean, we know Cunningham's not trade bait. We know Marchbank probably isn't either. Is Martin trade bait?
You see, the players that we've got out of contract, I hate to be horrible, but I just wouldn't buy them. Like, I know it sounds horrible, but like I look at the players who we could trade who are out of contract, but I think Murkoff's got no value because you just don't know what he is. Marchbank and Cunningham, unrestricted free agents, so it's just contract value. So we won't really trade them. And then it's like Domaku, no value. Jack Carroll, maybe a third.
Yeah,
like
could be.
Maybe, but I don't even know what he is.
Matt Carroll, you said he played with Cooper Lord.
He did, yes, right? Matty Carroll, yeah.
So he hasn't had much of a chance, has he?
No, I mean, he's an intriguing one because of the midfield that got picked up in Sandringham. Him and Cooper Lord were the only two that weren't drafted. And then Carlton rookied Matt Carroll. And then 6 months later, we got Cooper Lord. So now we've got all the Sandy boys back together. He could be a really intriguing one because I've got to say, and I mentioned it in my draft profiles last year, that both of them did all the hard work for the other boys. So Matt Carroll's definitely a watch this space because he came injured. He had a horrific injury at the end of last year. So I don't think we expected him to even be fit this year. So he's one that I'm willing to wait and see what he's about. Because if he's anything like his mate Cooper, might be all right in the seniors.
Yeah. Before, what's your opinion of the players who are going to get selected this week? I'm going flying to Brisbane actually tomorrow, because I've got home up there too. But anyway, so do you reckon the Doc will play, hopefully?
Yes, 100%. I think Voss knows how integral he is, and I think if he...
What about TDK? What do you think his chances are?
Part of me thinks Carlton are playing tricks, and I think he plays, but I think we're maybe just being a little bit smart here, and I think all the media expect Doherty to be named. I've just got a sneaky feeling that TDK is okay and Carlton are hiding him because then Brisbane are planning for Pitternet.
And the one I'd worry about is Adam Sirra. I mean, because he's soft tissues, right? I mean, do you think he'll be selected?
I think he is the lucky guy in the unlucky guy in this. I think Voss has got a problem. It didn't work when he brought him back and played him with the guys last time. I think it makes Voss's job easy this time. And he goes, right, Cooper Lord slot in. Perfect. Let's just leave it as it is. Chera have another week. But I think Doc and TDK are so important to how we play that Voss will be willing to sacrifice whoever it needs to be. But I don't think Chera's done enough.
And Ashton Meyer has to play, doesn't he?
It'll be stiff if he's sub again. I mean, I'd rather drop Kemp and play Moyer. I think the last two games he's come on for 10 minutes. He is Jack Martin mixed with Lockie Fogarty. He's not scared to get his hands dirty. I think he'd be integral playing off Charlie and Harry. I think he could be huge.
And do you think we can beat Brisbane? I mean, I think, but I'm just your opinion about how we match up.
I think we match up really well. I think you look at the last couple of times we played them as well. They find us hard to beat, and we find them a little bit awkward too. I think this game comes down to the battle of the head, though, and I really do think Brisbane, if they're 30 points down again, I think mentally they're cooked, and I think that's integral. I think whoever wins the first quarter wins this game. I don't think Brisbane have it in them to come back. I think the pressure will be too much.
Friends say to me, Charlie and Harry haven't played. I mean, they can come straight back and still perform, can't they? What do you think? Players can at that level play at, you know what I mean? Without having played.
Oh, 100%. I think Harry and Charlie, they're so good. I mean, people forget Charlie had 2 years out of the game. He was on the pitch for 10 minutes and he banged one in from 65 off the step. Like, you don't lose it. You don't lose it. And I think if we're going to be honest, as well as Kennedy and Kemp did, a 60% fit Harry Mackay and a 60% fit Charlie Kerner is better than Kennedy and Kemp.
And McGovern would be handy in the back line too, wouldn't he? I guess because I love Cohen and I think he's a great player, but I just think the back line just to reinforce it even as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think McGovern coming in there, for some reason it works, doesn't it? Wheaterin likes him there. The boys seem to be stronger with him, but I also think Cowan will enjoy having a lesser role. I think in this kind of final, I think he would be a lot better not playing the loose and being more defensive, which is why we fell in love with him. So I think McGovern coming back to be loose allows Lockie to go back to being the pure defender, and I think he's important this week. I think you need that pure defender.
Will Lewis stay in the side or not?
Tough one.
He played well last 2 weeks, hasn't he? Reasonably.
Yeah, I think if we can get, looking at how they play, Joe Danaher works up the ground, and this is my fear when we play Brisbane. When we play Wheater in fullback, I think he's too far away from Danaher. I think if you bring Young back, he can stay at fullback, and it allows Wheater in to go and attack Danaher as they attack the ball into him. So for me, I'd let him play.
Where do you put McGovern?
I'd play him in the pocket loose like he always is, trying to get them intercepts.
Yeah. And have Sard on the...
Yeah, half-back, attacking the game, and Chincotta.
I'd love him to run more. Sard, I'd love him to run more.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll go back to Cowan behind him, which seems to help Sard, so he doesn't have to be so strong defensively. So that's the beauty of when McGovern's playing. They play McGovern behind Chincotta. So I really like that. So, I mean, I think Chincotta's got a big job to play on Charlie Cameron. I've got a feeling he gets Charlie Cameron this week.
Chincotta's got a lot of pace, hasn't he? He seems to be one of the fastest players for Carlton. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, technically, by speed, he is the fastest player.
Yeah, so he might be able to handle Charlie, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be. He's certainly tougher than Charlie Cameron too, which I think is a big thing because Charlie likes to have a little bit of a bit of niggle in that forward line. He likes to be a bit annoying. I think Chincotta can match him for annoyingness.
So, are you going to be there on Thursday with the when doing the selection, or
I will be.
Yeah,
I'll come and annoy Terry on Thursday, and tomorrow, I think, Wednesday, we've got selection table as well. So you'll see me loads this week.
So how many players do you think are coming in your opinion?
Let's have a look. Yeah. Let's get me list. I think if I'm a betting man, I think you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I reckon you'll see a minimum of 6 changes.
And who, just while you're there, who do you think would be dropped? I know Mathew always has to come out because he got this.
Yeah, so I think TDK, Gov, Harry, Charlie, Williams, Dot come in. That's 6.
Yes.
So I think Owies, Kemp, Binns, Durden, Pitternet, and I think he'll drop Fantasia.
Do you? Because he's been all right, hasn't he? I mean, I don't know. I know he hasn't, but I thought he was okay. How's that last week?
Yeah, I think he was okay. I mean, yeah, I think he might just because of them players that are coming back. I think when TDK solo rucks, we've got that ability through the midfield. So I could even see Binns being dropped. If Dot comes back, Binns being dropped and Dot goes onto the wing as well. Mm-hmm. And Fantasia becomes sub or Motlop becomes sub.
So you reckon Motlop will stay in the side? Because
I think he's probably got lucky with the injuries.
Huh?
And
yeah. Who's that a small player they're going to have in the forward line for Carlton? Will it be Williams?
Yeah, I mean, I think Voss will instantly bring Zach Williams in because I think Zach Williams, and he's our next best goal kicker outside of Owies. So I think you've got to take that risk.
Oh, sorry, Tom. It's just fascinating, isn't it, when you look at the team and the players coming in, and it happened at the right time for Carlton with the 2 weeks rest. I mean, I don't know why we had all these injuries, but you could speculate, but. I mean, it just seemed to be we seem to cop. Other teams got injuries, but we seem to have our number 1 players get injuries. Our 8 grade players.
Yeah, well, I mean, without bad luck, you have no luck at all. That's what my pop
No.
used to say.
No, because someone said, "Oh, Richmond's had a lot of injuries," but he said, then again, a lot of those injuries weren't AFL players. Standard.
Yeah, and it seems to be the injuries this year have been in positions that we don't exactly have a lot of depth. Like, it wouldn't be so bad if it was halfbacks, because we seem to have an entire list of halfbacks, but it seems to be them awkward positions.
Cooper Lord should play this week. I mean, I think he's helps Cripps and Walsh, to be honest with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a big problem here that I think it's easier to put Lord in the team than it is putting Chera in the team at the minute, because I think it just suits what we're doing. So I think it makes Voss's job easy on Chera this week.
Because we don't want to have an injured player in the first quarter and having one less player on the ground.
It's going to be fascinating. Like, it's going to be fascinating what Voss does, and it's probably the hardest selection that he's probably ever had at the club.
All right. No, thanks, Pom. Thanks very much for. I'm just wondering about those players and the team and everything this week, because it's if we get over Brisbane, hopefully, who knows?
You got to be in it to win it, haven't you? And I think if, like you say, if it wouldn't be a great game, GWS Carlton, I think that would be the ultimate next game for both.
Would that be at the Sydney Cricket Ground? Probably. I'm not at the Giants ground.
It'd be interesting what they do, because the AFL do have a priority for the bigger stadium, because I know that if Geelong win and no other Victorian side wins, that game will be at MCG, that game.
Yes,
so I'd imagine that'll be, I mean, it's 25k, isn't it, their stadium? So I'd imagine playing Carlton, the AFL would push
for
to
Sydney.
go to the SCG, because we could fill GWS Stadium up for a regular game.
If we beat the Sydney, I mean, that's week ahead. Who do we play then? Maybe Geelong or Port, isn't it? Could it be like...
Let's have a look. Good question, that. I tell you. Hey, I like going into the future, though. I don't believe in this take one game at a time nonsense. I like to plan, mate. Let's have a look. Let's do this realistically. So it'd be either Geelong, whoever wins between Port and Geelong, it's them, or the winners of the Dogs Hawthorns. So that could be Hawthorn, it could be Geelong, it could be Port, or it could be the Doggies.
And then whoever wins that goes to the grand final, whatever. Yeah,
whoever wins that goes to the grand final, and you'd guess that if it's on form, it's either Sydney or Port, number 1 and 2.
Yeah. But who knows with Carlton, because Carlton were in the top 4 nearly all year, weren't they?
Well, I mean, I'll make a bold call. If Carlton win the prelim, if we play an interside state of the G, we 100% win it.
All right.
1,000%. If Carlton gets to the granny and we've got Port or Sydney or GWS, we win it. All day.
And what's the chances this week? Your chances if Carlton beat Brisbane?
42% at this stage until I see the team being named.
All right, fair enough. All right, yes. Thursday night might go.
Thursday night, I'll change. When I see it on paper, I'll feel a bit more excited.
All right, thanks, Bob. All right.
Cheers, mate. Thanks. Great seeing you the other day as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers. Joshy! How are you, mate?
Good, mate. You?
Hey, mate, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready for the week ahead.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Nah, it's exciting. We used to dream to play finals like a few years ago. Now everyone's sulking, saying we shouldn't have made it, or they wish they didn't make it. Like, mate, 2 years ago, if you said we were playing finals twice in a row, everyone would have been so happy. So, like, even if we're, who gives a fuck? Like, we're in it.
Mate, I mean, look, first stage of winning a flag is just making the 8, innit? It doesn't matter, really, 1 to 8. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're there, you've got a chance.
Yeah, exactly right. Nah, so it's exciting. I've got a question regarding the Camperelli boys, though. I
me.
know there is a lot of excitement, I guess. They're a father-son prospect. Their dad was a great player for the club. Do they actually fit the profile for what our list needs, though?
I'll be honest. I think if Ben Camperelli was called Ben Smith,
Yeah.
I don't think he would be on Carlton's radar this year, where he is. I don't think he is. I think if he was last year, yes. But a guy that can play wing, hard runner, can play on the midfield inside, I think he's what we hope Jack Carroll could be. And I think Nick Austin has a habit of trying to kill all of Saucy's boys that were projects, which I think Jack Carroll's the only one left at the moment now that were Michael Voss, that was Saucy's projects, his speculative picks. So he's definitely an upgrade on Jack Carroll, in my opinion. So he's probably going to be okay because I think of who we get rid of this year, he probably replaces them. But I'm more excited by his brother, Lucas, because I think Lucas is probably more of a need. Halfback flank. I don't think we've got a young halfback flanker apart from Billy. So I feel like he could be Nick Newman's natural replacement.
Yeah, okay. All right. No, I honestly didn't know much about like the Camperelli boys and all that. Like I know Lucas is touted as the better one, but that's good in the sense like I don't think many people realize like Nick Newman, I think he's 31. He'd probably only have a few years left, like at absolute most. You'd probably give him another 3 years, I think. So we need a player.
He's an old man. Like it's weird, 31 years old, but he's ancient on our list. He's like it's like having Cristiano Ronaldo there.
Yeah, no, exactly right. So I don't think many, and even Adam's side, like next year I think he's 30. You know, we've had it. Next year will be the 4th year I think on our list he'll be playing. No, 4th or 5th I think. 2021 was his first year.
Yeah, it's crazy because like Nick Newman and Doc are the old men.
That's fucking crazy. Wow.
Like they are like our Nick Haynes of this group at the moment. They are like the old men of this list.
Yeah, unreal, eh? Unreal.
It's
what do
crazy
you
to think?
Yeah, absolutely. But what do you think in terms of Nick Hayes and all that? Because I sent you a message about we obviously need that inside goal kicking mid. Is there anyone on the trade, like the draft or trade radar, that we could possibly get that could fill that void? Or do you think we've already got that? Maybe it's a player that we can just keep developing.
I think, unfortunately, I don't think we have anyone talented enough apart from Elijah, and it worries me because I don't want to move Elijah from half forward. I think that's his best. His best skill set is playing a little bit more forward than he is midfield, and he pinch hits. I'd like Carlton to go after Luke Parker. I think Luke Parker could be the stopgap for a year, and then we draft maybe a Tom Gross. I'm a big fan of Tom Gross, who's a goal-kicking mid. He's big, he's tough, he's defensively good. And being around Luke Parker for a year or 2 years, I think would be like a phenomenal learning for him.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. And Luke Parker's got a bit of bastard about him, I reckon. So
well, I mean, he's willing to king hit someone off the ball in VFL. So I mean, like come on down, Luke.
Yeah. I think we need a player like that. You know, someone to help Cripps in the midfield as well. It's interesting, the whole Petrarca situation. I didn't buy it at all at first. I was like, oh, this is just an absolute load of shit. But I guess where there's smoke, there's fire, and there seemed to be a lot of smoke for the following few days. I think what happened probably was Collingwood said no, they can't do it. Carlton said no, we're not getting rid of Harry. So I think that's just why that whole thing's burnt out probably.
Unfortunately, a trade like that with 6-week notice is either going to be expensive and someone's got to be really friendly. It's going to be one that I'm going to watch, though, because should a team, I don't know, get an offer for a player that makes picks look good or something like that, it would be very interesting if Collingwood or Carlton inquire, say, if they get a couple of firsts or access to it, if what Melbourne will do. But I've got a feeling, and I said it in my video with the Mackay Petrarca, that it's going to be a Brodie Grundy deal. And I remember Adelaide offering 2 firsts for Brodie Grundy, and Collingwood knocked it back, and they tried to back Grundy would be okay and they could manipulate the salary cap with other deals. And then suddenly a year passed and Melbourne said, have a second, fuck off. I reckon that might backfire on Melbourne. And this time next year, should Petrarca want out, it might be a problem for Melbourne, because I think then they may go down an avenue where they're going to have to get rid of him at a cheap deal.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think he's made way too much noise, and I think Melbourne, their premiership window looks shut to me. They've wasted so much talent. Like, they had so much talent, especially, 2022. They started hot as straight set exits twice in a row. They probably lack that key forward, and that's what they want Harry to be. But here's the thing. You trade Christian Petrarca for Harry Mackay, hypothetically. Well, who's kicking the ball to Harry Mackay for Melbourne? Because Clayton Oliver ain't doing it. Jack Viney, maybe. They lose that midfielder in Petrarca, who was going to pretty much... He's carrying their midfield this year alone until he got injured.
I think Melbourne are fascinating, because I think that if I was Melbourne and I am seriously thinking about trading Petrarca, I am probably trading Pickett. I am probably trading Clayton Oliver as well. And I know it sounds crazy. I'd probably look at trading Gawn as well this year. Like, if I was Melbourne, I'd be like looking at Collingwood's model a couple of years ago and going, let's do it. Like, these guys are probably worth serious money in a draft that's deep. Let's go crazy. Like, let's see if we can get 8 picks inside the first 20 and a couple of picks next year. And let's have a real red hot crack at getting this list sorted now.
Yeah, wow, even Gawn. Shit, that's a cool. Unreal.
I'm surprised they haven't. Like, I am surprised that they haven't. If I was them, I'd be seriously contemplating, let's go rebuild. Let's go rebuild. Max Gawn, I think, would turn every AFL list manager's head. I think if they said Max Gawn's available for 2 firsts right now, every list manager's plan is ripped up, put in the bin, and everyone's on the phone to him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Gawn's been one of the best ruckmen of this century, so 7 All-Australian Blazers. Shit. I can't believe Melbourne have blown it that bad, though. Fuck, how have they blown it this bad? They looked like, when they won that flag in 21, mate, I thought back-to-back for sure, but wow. Unbelievable.
It's weird. I think they've just this is one of the worries when you win a flag. I think sometimes winning a flag a bit earlier than planned, which I think with Melbourne's, it might have been a year or 2 earlier than they thought.
Yeah.
I think they've stagnated their list. I don't think they've adapted. I think every year they've kind of backed in Petrarca and Oliver will win the tap from Gawn and will win. And and they haven't covered that key forward position. Like, that's why they were desperate for Mackay. They've tried to go with like Josh Shackey, older players that haven't quite made it. They've kind of like done Geelong, but done Geelong badly, where Geelong usually take a 3rd-year player that hadn't played AFL yet, and he works. They've like chosen the shit version of that. So fascinating with Melbourne, but yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have known what Carlton would have said if they'd come to Carlton and said Max Gawn and Petrarca for Harry Mackay and a first rounder, and said to Carlton, thank you very much, Mrs. Palm, said, you know what, we'll give you the ruckman now. You'll have the ruckman now. We're taking your future ruckman. Here's your ruckman now. And here's Petrarca. You can keep Harry and a first. Wonder what would have happened then. I wonder what would have happened then.
Yeah, Jesus. Well, that's sort of what we need, don't we? I mean, Tom's going to be a great player, though. Like, he's found his he's going to be
100%. But I think that's harder for Carlton to turn down.
yeah.
Like
Almost
like St Kilda. Is that what you do? They need a midfielder that breaks the game open. They need probably. They probably don't need a ruckman, but do you go in Rowan Marshall? Like, do you go hard and go, look, Rowan Marshall will take Jack Steele? Or do you go Max King, Rowan Marshall, Gone, and Petrarca?
Jeez.
And they've got to be harsh. Like, I think their list is savable. It's either you go full rebuild or you go hard for players that you can't buy in the draft. It'd be interesting what Melbourne do, because they've got a lot of list spots and a lot. If you look at their out of contract this year, half of that list is shit that they're getting rid of as well. It's like rubbish players.
Yeah.
It's like really bad players as well.
Yeah, they. I think, to be honest with you, with Melbourne, I think they just got to bite the bullet and trade off their players. I think it's either they're going to just stick in the middle of the ladder, struggle to rebuild, then they'll fall into the shit when the Tassie team comes in, and then, we're fucked. We can't get any of these good picks. So I think Melbourne are going to bite the bullet. But it's interesting as well, because I wonder how, in terms of when the Tassie team comes in, where we will be at around that period of time, because Cripps probably be retired by then, 2028.
Yeah, so it's 2028. I mean, it is scary that I looked at this the other day. Cripps next year will go into the top 5 oldest Carlton players.
Oh my God.
Which is bizarre. I mean, it's not old, it's 29, but it's old. It's old for us. But I mean, this is where you're looking at your 25-year-olds. And I think we're in a very fortunate position, because you look at our 24, 25-year-olds, TDK will be coming up to 28 then. Adam Cherrer will be 28. Jacob Wheatering will be 30. Jack Silvani will be 30. Harry will be 30. They're coming to the end of their career, but you'd imagine at that stage, looking at list profile, Carlton would be like top 3 in the league, should be, with the list makeup. I'd like Carlton to start planning next year for 2028. Like next year saying, right, I want a Cripps replacement in that draft. I want a Jacob Wheatering replacement in this draft or next year's draft. Like really looking, let's make sure we're at that avenue of protection, because that's what Melbourne have done wrong. Melbourne have thought we'll win 2 of the 4 flags. We'll have a load of 30-year-olds everyone wants, like Adam Tomlinson, who's out of contract this year. Loads of players we can sell for assets. And the problem is you look at Melbourne's outs this year, Ben Brown, rubbish. Adam Tomlinson, he wanted to retire 2 years ago. Jack Melcham, Joel Smith, Lachlan Hunter, Tom McDonald. None of them excite you. But if they were dual Premiership players, they may excite you. You may go, oh, Ben Brown, dual Premiership player. Get him in.
Yeah, no, 100%. What Carlton need to do is they need to get the cycle that Geelong and West Coast maybe up until 2021 had. Geelong, they're like a cockroach. They just don't fucking seem to die. They don't ever go on a rebuild. So if we can get that cycle going like Geelong has, where we draft well, develop our players properly, and we can remain competitive, Geelong always are finishing top 4 or top 6. If we can keep doing that from our last rebuild and don't have to really go into the stage where our list has to bottom out again, I think that would be ideal. And it would also save fans like us being mentally tortured like we have for the last 20 years.
And I think Geelong have something that I hope Carlton do this year with like Lee Collier and players like that. Like Geelong have been brilliant at finding that guy that doesn't quite break into the seniors. But another club has spent 2 years developing the guy, and then they finish it off. So if I'm Carlton now, with our list management's in a precarious position, I think this year, it's a real hard trade and draft period. If we can maybe pick up 2 of them players who are going to be the next Elijah Hollands, Lee Collier, even Alex Davies at Gold Coast, I'm in love with that guy. You can get them cheap and you bring them in and you go, right, this is our backup. This is our banker here. you've done the hard work for us. You've blooded him. We're going to make him better. I think it'll be a real interesting little trade and draft period for Carlton. Just try and be a little bit tricky this year from the Blues. I'd like to see us.
Yeah, we're in a really interesting spot. I just think our window is definitely wide open. It's weird that we finished 8th this year, but, in a year so tight, I think absolutely anyone can win it this year. Even from 8th. So, I don't know. I'm very excited, though, for Saturday night as well, mate. Like, fucking, I got a good feeling about it. I haven't, my gut seems to be, I don't know, I'm being a bit superstitious or whatever, but my gut seems to be telling me Blues by 15. So we'll see.
I like that. I'll take it. One thing I know about our football club is you just don't know what they're going to do. And that's usually a bad thing when it's the season. But in a final, not knowing what they'll do is a good thing because means the opposition don't know what we're going to do. They don't know which Carlton shows up. If it's the good Carlton, they could be in a world of hurt. If it's the bad Carlton, they could be in a world of hurt as well because they'll be incredibly nervous. I think a loss for Brisbane, and I've been saying it all week, I think Fagan is sacked. I think if I'm Brisbane chairman and they get knocked out this year, how many failures do they need? Because making a granny's great, but I thought they were woeful. I thought Collingwood controlled that game 90% of the game.
Completely. Yeah, they did.
I would be looking at Brisbane's list and going, if he hasn't got them there now, when is he? And I think Brisbane are probably 2 years ahead of us with our list. It's now or never.
Yeah, well, Brisbane, they started their rebuild around the same time as us. They just seemed to get their shit together earlier, and maybe they didn't have to play their younger kids as early as we did. I don't know. Well, we did butcher a lot of our draft picks as well. You look at Paddy Dow, Lockie O'Brien, we bring in Will Setterfield. That's 3 players that are gone. Yeah, Brisbane did a better job, but they were also pretty much at the same sort of. They started in a similar year. I think 2017, we both clubs finished towards the bottom of the ladder, and 2 years later they're in I think a prelim or a semi. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Brisbane did was very smart. Is they probably went a bit earlier than we did on players like Neil and Dunkley.
Yeah,
they targeted it and they went hard, probably just at the right time. Where I think our big deal was Mitch McGovern, which I'll still stand by, even though Mitch McGovern's turned out all right now as a backman. I think if you actually judge that deal when it happened, 2017, when we didn't need a forward, I think it's probably the stupidest trade we've ever done. If you said to me that 2017 player was a Canelio or someone like that, I'd probably say, yeah, it's genius. But I think it's gone all right now. But I'd love to see what would have happened if that was a Stephen Canelio, if that was a Josh Kelly. I reckon we may have won a flag by now. As bold as it is, I think we may have had the jigsaw piece before we needed it.
And that then also brings an interesting spotlight on with Teague and all that. You go back to Teague and even Bolton. Who the fuck would be coaching the team if we get those players in and we're actually making finals? Is it Bolton? Has he gotten his shit together? Or was he
It's a fascinating thing because I remember being at a Hawthorn event and 2 Premiership players said Bolton was a better coach than Clarkson to me. When I said, who's the best coach you've worked under, they did that. And then I went to a Collingwood event and 3 of the players were raving about Bolton, and he's tactical now, so he's motivational now. So it's a question we'll never know. But if Carlton had the right people in place, which it kind of does now, could Bolton have been the man? We'll probably never know. But it'd be fascinating. It'll be fascinating if we had a ability to tell, it'd be in training. But I do think 2017, 2018, we panicked way too much, and I think it set us back. And you look at Hawthorn. I think Hawthorn have shown teams how to do it. You've got to kill it and commit to it. And if you kill it and commit to it, you're final. You're fine. You'll get there. I felt like we panicked too early with results, and I think 2018 is proof everyone was saying Carlton can't kick over 80, but defensively, we'd done pretty well 2016 and 2017. It would be lovely to know what would have happened if we carried on with that defensive approach, because that's what Voss did. First year he came here, made us hard to break down, and we got results straight away. So ironically, maybe Bolton was onto something.
Yeah.
We'll never know that, but I mean...
But it's, definitely an interesting point. Yeah, fuck. Wow. Unreal. Oh, well, we're here. We played in the prelim last year. This year, we're winning the flag. Fuck it. Honestly, I would rather believe in something, and we could get absolutely flogged on Saturday, but I'd rather believe than believe going into this game that we're going to get flogged. You got to believe in the boys. They're there, back them in.
Josh, mate, I'm with you. Like, if they think they're going to lose, Jesus, there's no point even travelling. We might as well forfeit. Look, you're in it. We've beaten them before this year against all the odds. We nearly beat them last year to make a granny. They can do this. And if there's Charlie and Harry in your forward line, you can beat anyone.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well with the whole Charlie and Harry thing, because all the Petrarca talk was in the modern game of footy, you can't win a flag with two big key forwards. Well, let's see if we can. They've only had one final series, so I want to see them break it open. I think they can break it open. We just got to actually fucking kick it to them, not just bomb it on their heads. That would be great.
I think when you've got a fired up Cripps, fired up Harry, fired up Charlie, Jake. I mean, I always say this: we've got enough stars in our team. Like when you look at it, I would even say we've probably got more stars than most teams in our team across the lines. So Harry and Charlie have won games on their own before. Cripps has won games on his own before. All it takes is one of them to have a big game, and you don't even need a tactic. Like, you don't. Charlie's done it. Harry's done it. Broken games open. Cripps has done it. All it needs is one of them to fire, and we're in with a great chance.
Yeah, we've honestly got, I reckon. Did you watch much NBA?
I do watch enough at NBA, but I don't watch too much, but I do watch enough of it.
We have got, our list is like the 2017 Warriors, Golden State Warriors. Oh, yeah. It is just, honestly, it's a super team. You look at the lines, on each line, there are stars everywhere. And once we can get it, and obviously bosses needed time. The club was in shambles when he got there, let's be honest. But I reckon this year, next year, and so forth, there'll be a flag in the next 3 years. If it's not this year, it'll be next year or the year after, for sure. It's coming. It's definitely coming. This list is too good not to win a flag. How can it not?
When Bolton took over, I wrote down on an email to one of my mates 4 flags by 2030, and it's getting very dangerously close to having to win a flag every year till 2030. So we could be on a 4-peat. You never know. We could be.
That would be good. That would be good, mate. Unreal.
Well, Josh, mate, love you to pieces. I've got a couple more people to get through, but you are the best, mate. And hopefully see you next week when we do this.
Absolutely, mate. Win or lose, I'll be here, mate. Up the fucking
Cheers,
bag.
mate. Much love.
See you, mate. Go Blues.
I've got Yusuf. How you doing, big dog?
Good, mate. How are you?
Oh, mate, can't complain.
Right, mate, let me just go to a room with some more light. 1 second.
There we are.
Well?
Yeah, I can, mate. How are you?
Good. I won't take too much of your time because it's late and you probably have other people, so I'll make it quick. So I just got a few questions about the game on Saturday. I was thinking about what we should do with Walsh. So what I'm thinking is, Zorko, he's very dangerous for Brisbane. I've been a bit worried about him because of the ball use and, the way he's aggressive kicking through the middle of the ground. I'm not sure if you watched the Collingwood Brisbane game from a few weeks ago, the way they used Dacos from the second quarter onwards. Because what happened was Zorko was dominating the first quarter, basically unopposed with no accountability on him, and then they put Dacos at half forward on Zorko to make him defend, make him accountable, and because Zorko was so worried about Dacos, he wasn't able to win the footy himself, and then Dacos was also hurting him the other way. And I feel like basically just copy and paste with Walsh. Same thing, make him accountable with Walsh. You know, he's got the running power to go with Zorko when he's trying to get those handball receives and break the lines. And Walsh performs his best on half forward. We saw that, you know, in the final series last year when he plays, you know, wing half forward and he's in space. Should we use the same strategy as Collingwood there, or what do you reckon?
Yusuf, I love that because it's something that I think we do horribly with Walsh. Like I watched Nick Dacos play, and they free him up so well and get him to find the easy ball, which I know most fans complain about and say, "Oh, Nick Dacos is soft," but I think that's great coaching. Put your best players in space, and I agree with you. I think Nick Dacos, Sam Walsh, they've got that ability in space to take the game on. And we haven't seen that from Sam Walsh all year. Like, I've been waiting to see it. Get him out in space, get him running into goal. In the finals last year, I think he was very similar to Nick Dacos all year. This year, he was dangerous. When he had the ball, he was either having a shot at goal or he's giving it to Kerner or he was making something happen. I actually like that. Like, make Dane Zorko have to defend. Don't give him space. Make him have a problem. I love that. I actually think that's great.
Yeah, because he wasn't playing in defence when we played them in opening round. He made that move like basically after Coleman went down a few weeks into the season. So in the last, like he was still good against us in opening round. Like he kicked a couple of goals. He was playing midfield, but the thing is with Walsh, like his best year was in 2021 when he was playing wing half forward. If you look at those games, like none of them his contested possession count was that high. They were all like maybe his contested rate was maybe like 33% or something like that. But you see this year now, his contested rate is like 50% because he's getting the ball when he's got no time and space and he's under pressure. And then people will say, "Oh, his kicking's not good." But obviously, your kicking's not going to look good if you're hack kicking it forward because you've got no time. Even Dacos, like I look at his worst games this year, Dacos, because I'll compare them because they're very similar players because they're both great on the outside. But Dacos, if you watch his games against Geelong and Essendon when he was copying attention late in the year, his contested rate and clearances were very high, but his efficiency was like, 30-40%, and he was having no influence on games. But then if you look at his last 2 weeks, like against Melbourne, the contested count was very low, but he was getting all his possessions when he had time and he was out in space, and that's when he can use his good decision-making. And I just think with Walsh, that's exactly how we need to use him when he has time and space. And obviously, you're going to look like a bad kick if you're under so much pressure, but when you have time and you can actually hit up players on the lead and you can actually, use your ball use to good effect, then we need to, that's when we can get the best out of him.
Yusuf, honestly, you're music to my ears. Someone that understands if you're being tackled or you're under pressure, you might not kick very well, particularly when you've got 8 people on you. Like, spot on. And I agree. I think what McRae does so well, I think the biggest compliment Nick Dacos has is he's soft, because everyone always goes, "Oh, he's soft. He stays out of trouble." And I'm like, that's what you want a player of his talent to do. Like, you don't want Nick Dacos being Cripps. You want Nick Dacos avoiding trouble, out in space, and he's going to pull you apart. And I think that's what we've maybe done wrong with Sam Walsh, but I think Cooper Lord might unlock Sam Walsh. Like, the last couple of weeks since Cooper's been in there, we've seen Sam have less and less time in the midfield.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Voss has been waiting for that player who can still be quite quick, think fast, but it's not Sam Walsh. And for some reason, Adam Cherry this year hasn't been that. So maybe if Cooper Lord stays in, we might see the return of Sam Walsh being the outside dangerous threat.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I was wondering, so with the midfield, I imagine that Dunkley will go to Cripps. And I remember last year in the prelim, Cripps kicked a couple of goals, but they were junk time goals. Like when the game was on the line and then the second quarter, third quarter, he wasn't able to have much of an influence. How else do the rest of our midfield step up? What other strategies should we use if Cripps is getting shut down? Who else is going to do the heavy lifting? Because I'm worried that if he doesn't step up and carry like he has, then there's no one else is going to be able to fill that void, you know?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because I was watching the final again. I watched it this morning while I was doing some work and preparing for some videos. And one thing I noticed is exactly like you said, like once they managed to get a handle on Cripps, that second quarter onwards was just disgusting, and Brisbane started to overrun us. And Carlton tried that George Hewitt on Neil, and it didn't work. It didn't work. But I was watching last week the St Kilda game. The one thing that did make me happy was Cooper Lord trying to stop Steele getting close to Cripps. And it worked quite well. I wonder if Cooper, like I've been writing in my notes here, I'd love to see Cooper Lord be given the tag job on Dunkley and say, just buy Cripps time. If you can give him a second, Cripps can get this ball out to someone better. So get it to Walsh, get it to Ollie, get it to Elijah. I'd love to see Cooper Lord. I know this sounds mental. Either try and stop Dunkley, or I'd be putting Cooper Lord on Neil, because Dunkley often does that role if Neil's taken out of the game. They try and get Dunkley to take the tagger out. I'd be saying to Cooper Lord, you're quicker than Lockie. Just nail him. Every time he gets that handball, just nail him and make Brisbane do something about it. I think that's what we've got to do this week. We've got to help Cripps and help Walsh. I think they're two important players that if we can get them off the chain, we're all right.
The thing is, I think Lloyd would be good. It'd be a good experience for him as well. But I don't know if he has the IQ or the footy smarts to go with Neil, like in stoppages, to read the movement of Neil and to constantly be on the move like Neil. Like, would he be able to match it with him, like in the centre and around the stoppages around the ground?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to have to learn, isn't he? I mean, if he wants to play, I mean, based on what we saw last week, the last couple of times we've seen him, he's done pretty well at staying with players during the stoppage. So, I mean, I'd give him the responsibility. My only issue is, like, we tried it against Sydney. The Sydney game's great to watch when everything goes wrong for Carlton, but Carlton had that plan to put Hewitt on Chad Warner, and we saw the issue. Chad Warner is too quick. And like you say, Neil's so smart. I feel like Neil is too smart for Hewitt's lack of speed. I feel like Neil will kill him. So the next fastest player there is Cooper Lord. He's quick. I'd say to Cooper, look, do it for a half. If you can just keep him to 15 touches, that's pretty good. Like, just make it hard for Neil. Because I think Neil, like you said about Walsh, his one issue is if he's under pressure, he ain't a great user. So make sure he doesn't get to kick in space. Yeah.
Don't you reckon, because I think Hewitt and Neil were matched up in opening round, don't you reckon Hewitt did like an okay job on Neil in that game?
He did, but we managed to make that game really contested, didn't we? Like, and I feel like we probably don't want to do that this time. When you look at the players that might play, our spread has been really good the last couple of weeks, and you can see that's what Voss is trying to do, get us to go out wide quicker. I feel if it becomes contested, then we're going to get Walsh contested. I don't think we can afford to keep it contested and free Walsh up. Where I agree with you, I think if we can get Walsh out in open, half forward, we're good. So I'd like to see Hewitt have that defensive role to stop them bulldozing through, but I'd give Cooper that run with role just for a quarter, see how it goes, and say, look, Cripps is going to match Dunkley. You stop the handball to Neil. And then I think outside that, I think our midfield matches up well with the rest of their midfielders.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just trying to think, will a contested or open game suit us more? Because in the prelim, after quarter time, once the game became so open, like with Brisbane, when they get the momentum on their side and their crowd and they just bring, waves of players forward, we're just not able to, keep up. Like, they're always able to get the outnumber at the back, and then they have Bailey, Rayner, they just, long kicks forward, gaining territory, and then they're able to just get it at the back. Whereas if it's a more contested style game, it evens out the quality a bit. I'm just worried that if it's a open game, they'll hit us on the counter like they were doing late, like in the prelim last year, and they'll just, get out the back all the time.
I think Brisbane were the first team that showed other teams, though, how to beat us. And that is if you make it contested early, we spend a lot of energy to score from them situations. Like, it's why when I did that Petrarca video, I think it's so important we find a goal-kicking midfielder because all of our stoppage scores are like really hard work to watch. It's like Hewitt and Cripps beat 3 men, handball it, then there's another handball, and then there's a kick, and then there's a goal where we don't get easy goals. So I think Brisbane will know if Carlton might beat us for a half contested, but if we then make them work hard to be 6, 7, 8, 9 points ahead, then we've got the option to spread, and Carlton can't do that. I think we really need to add that game because I like the West Coast Eagles game. I know it was against rubbish opposition, but I like the fact we were trying to get Ollie into the game, get Elijah into the game, get Walsh into the game on the outside because that's easy. It's low maintenance. I feel like sometimes our biggest weakness is we're kind of like Collingwood last year. We get a lot of short, real narrow games we've lost this year. When we've lost them, they've only been, 2 blowouts? But the problem is we don't have that energy that Collingwood did in the fourth quarter to go over at the top. We've kind of clung on and lost it. So I do think we need to add that element that we don't have to beat people up to beat them.
Yeah, I get you're saying basically expend that energy early like last year so that you could basically like, deal the first blow and just, make them like just deflated from the get-go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think last year's game against Brisbane is like everything that's good about us, but everything that's wrong. That we worked so hard to get that 30-point lead and like we played good football, but once that energy died, there was nothing left. Like you could see there was nothing left in that team. Like that fourth quarter, if you go back and watch the fourth quarter of that final, it's like we're dead. Like you can see it in the boys. They are dead. They can't run. They can't tackle. And Brisbane look like they've never played all year. It feels like it's their first game. So that is an area we've got to improve where, like, that's why I liked our turnover game. That's easy. Scoring from turnover, it means we're not working very hard. We're in good positions. We need to add them layers because it's so hard to maintain. It's so, like, you watch how we play, it's so tiring to watch.
Yeah. Also, I was going to ask about Ollie Holland. I really liked how he moved to the half-back line because he's helping us, provide that drive and breaking lines. But do you worry, like a lot of the other teams, their small forwards and their medium forwards, they're good, but like Brisbane's, their mediums and their high half forwards are like Loman, Rayner, Bailey. They're all like big, strong, physical players. Well, like if Ollie Holland gets any defensive responsibility on those guys while trying to stream off half-back, do you reckon he could maybe get caught out and will struggle to match up on those players?
I think Brisbane's the one game that I worry about Ollie because like Hugh McLuggage, Zach Bailey, who like play a lot of their wing as well. They're quite big boys as well. They're not like your genuine lightweight winger. Like these guys are a bit physical for wingers. I do think this is probably his hardest matchup, and we have seen it this year when he's come across like the Sydney game. He spent a quarter on Nick Blakey when Nick Blakey started playing up at the wing, and Blakey killed him because he's so much bigger. So this is going to be a real interesting one for Voss. You want Akers to be involved defensively and attacking. But you don't want to expose Ollie too much. And it'd be interesting. I think Voss drops Bins this week. I really do because I don't think he can play the way that we have done the last couple of weeks. So I think Ollie might go back to that like half forward again, which we saw a couple of weeks ago when he started to find form and they play a bit more defensive behind him. I think that I like Ollie going into 50. So I think this might be the week, you play him a little bit further up and Akers goes back to the defensive side. And then you move Nick Newman up on one wing, which we saw when Carlton beat Geelong. They played Nick Newman like halfway up the ground.
Yeah. The thing is, I imagine like Ollie will then match up on Jasper Fletcher, and then Aiken will match up on Berry. But then does Fletcher play that defensive wing role for them, or does he play that attacking wing role where he's delivering inside 50? Like, would that match up with Hollins and Fletcher work?
They're about the same size, to be fair, Jasper. And I mean, Ollie's got previous. They played Queensland in juniors and Ollie killed him. Yeah. So, like, Ollie's got that mental memory as well that I've played you before and I beat you, so I'm better than you. So that could help. Yeah. It's going to be interesting because we do know opposition target players. Kemp gets targeted. Yeah. Sydney targeted Ollie's wing. Yeah. And Fagan's quite clever, so he's going to know that. They're going to have to be really resourceful there. But that's why I'd like to see Carlton be a bit brave this week and play Ollie half forward for patches and make them have to go with our physical guys. Because I feel when it's physical, if we can get it on the outside to Elijah, Walsh, we can keep them away from the trouble. We've got a real chance. We've got a real chance.
Yeah, yeah. Also, last question I was going to say, you were saying you were out before for your team selection, and you were saying, I think, Kemp, Fantasia. I'm surprised you didn't say Carroll, because when I was watching him last week, like, he was playing...
I forgot Carroll. I'm going to be totally honest. I forgot he played.
Because I saw him playing almost like a key forward last week. Like, you would see him from the centre bounce. He'd match up on, like, a Josh Battle or a Wilkie, and I just think it's the two key forwards are coming out. I don't see, like, where he's going to play. Like, no position in midfield for him, no position up forward for him, no position on a wing. So I think probably him, Corey Durden, Owies, and then maybe Kemp and like Binns will probably come out for all the guys who are coming in, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. Honestly, no offense to Carroll, but I actually forgot he played last week. Now you've met, and then after I said it, I was like, oh, yeah, Jack Carroll did play. So, yeah, he's an interesting one. Jack Carroll, if the rumours are true that West Coast want him, maybe with Ben Camporelli coming in, it's maybe the time to get rid, because he just feels like he's not good enough as an inside midfielder or as an outside midfielder or as a half forward. He really feels like he's not getting better. And I don't mean to be harsh to him, but like, I just don't know what he does anymore.
Yeah. I feel like his ceiling is kind of capped. Like, when we see like Cooper Lord, we know, like, you see the potential, you see the ceiling is there, and he's got like a base level which is showing now, and he can improve on that. But Carroll, like, you don't know like how great he's going to be in any one position. So maybe if you get like a third round pick for him, he's not the type of player I think that can really flourish at another club or reach his absolute. I don't think he has that ceiling in him.
Yeah, I mean, when I went back home and did some work with Leeds, the big thing that they say is young players need to play first-team football. So under 18s and reserves doesn't help. Like, they need to play. That's why they send them on loan to, like, League Two, League One sides, worse sides, but they're actually professional sports. I sometimes think Jack Carroll's maybe reached his ceiling playing VFL football. So he probably does need to go to, like, the Eagles and ideally play 24 games a year to find himself, because the VFL there is a way below AFL. Like, I hate to say it, but it's way below, where I feel like Jack Carroll playing every week is the way he gets better. But you're not dropping Kennedy, you're not dropping Hewitt, you're not dropping Cripps, you're not dropping Hollands for Jack Carroll to practice, really?
Yeah, he's a perfect player. Like, if you could do loans in the AFL, he's a perfect player to do it with, because, like, he could go, like, you have players, like, basically, it would be like a Palmer situation at City, where there's, like, he's not ever going to play in his preferred position. He's never going to get game time. But in another club where the system's around him and he gets to play and everything goes through him, you'd be able to see the best of him in, like, a lower side where his quality is, like, outshines the rest of the players around him.
He'd be the perfect if the AFL had, like we have in football, the buyback rule. Like, he'd be awesome to trade to North now for a third and say, if he's any good in 3 years, if we pay a second, we get him back.
Yeah.
Like, you've got 3 years, like, and you cover your base and you give him to North and you hope he becomes a superstar. They get a deal if he doesn't. Like, He's an interesting one, Jack Carroll, because I do feel he will be okay if he played, but it's fantastic. I just feel like we've got too much depth.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough. And then, Tommy, I'll let you go. I know you got other people on it. It's
Yusuf,
late
mate,
night,
great
so-
to meet you, mate. And don't be a
No.
stranger. You honestly, yeah, like not often am I surprised, but someone who actually didn't say Sam Walsh is shit at kicking and gave me a reason. I love it.
No, there's context behind everything, so you just got to
Oh, mate,
look at the
mate,
situation.
brilliant. I love you, man. Well, thank you very much, and
No worries.
can't wait to see you next time.
I'll see you in future weeks. Take care. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Good night. See ya.
I've got Big Ben to finish off, the baker extraordinaire.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure, mate. What have we been baking? Just tell the audience you're doing a nice patisserie course, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
What have we learned to make so far? Let's make us hungry.
So far, I've made a Swiss roll, done strudel, profiteroles, chocolate mug cake, some genoise sponge. Quite a few things, actually. I'm going on to doing croissants next and other yeast-based.
I'll tell you what, I'm hungry already. It sounds gorgeous, mate. A bit of can't beat a profiterole. That's an underrated dessert. Is the profiterole?
Yeah, it's filled with chocolate custard as well. On the talk of chocolate, Carlton are certainly like a box of chocolates.
Yeah, which ones though? Because I think box of chocolates, some of them are better than others. Are we like a Black Magic? Because I think Black Magic are probably the best box of chocolates because they all look the same, so you never know if you're getting the horrible one or the good one.
Do you like Thorntons?
Don't mind Thorntons.
Yeah, I'd say they're probably most like Thorntons.
I don't mind that. Hey, don't mind that. Perfect first date chocolate in the UK. I reckon every first girlfriend I've had in the UK. Good day to you if you're watching this. I probably went to Thorntons before we had our first date. So happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you brought up Nick Dacos and how you brought up the whole thing with him and his relationship with the contest, and how it says a lot about McRae's coach. It also says a lot about the people around him.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned with Cripps's draft profile, he did work a lot with the ruck work of Darcy Cameron, and that's the ruckman that Nick Dacos is working with. So yeah. So
yeah,
people
I think forget as well that it takes a lot of discipline not to do the shit stuff as well. You see it in soccer a lot of times. Players go to big clubs and sometimes do too much, where the great players understand what they need to do to be good. So like Lionel Messi, you watch him when he was 19, 20, he never tracked back, but he always made sure he was in position to do what he needs to do. And that takes discipline. I think Nick Dacos is incredibly disciplined, that sometimes he doesn't become the extra in a stoppage. He trusts crisp Pendlebury's going to win it. And you watch Nick Dacos' first move. What I love about Nick Dacos, and I wish Walsh would learn this or have the confidence, he's already running when he thinks Pendlebury's won the ball. Like, he's already going to where he knows Pendlebury's going to hit the ball to, which is an incredible gift, but it requires incredible faith and discipline in your teammates.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to what these jealous rivals are going to start saying about Tom McGuan as well, because he's a similar type of player to Nick, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to be hyped, as we know. Like, obviously, if your dad has played the game, unfortunately, you'll get overhyped. But I mean, going real well at the moment. and finding the ball. And yeah, I don't know what is in the father-son academy at Collingwood, but it looks like you're going to have 3 pretty good ones on that list come 2025.
Tom McGuan makes me think a bit of Zach Merritt, to be honest, not just because of the number 7 on his back and wears a sash and plays under some form of aircraft and kicks with the left, but the zip that they both have through the contest and their decision making and the ability they have to hurt opposition are very, very similar.
Spot on, yeah. And I mean, he's quite small as well. So I mean, I'd imagine he'll still be there, but I think like Tom Mitchell is a guy that if I was Collingwood, I'd be very excited for Tom to learn to work with, because he's only 181, isn't he, Tom Mitchell? He's only small. He's nicknamed Titch, but he's a guy that's used that low centre of gravity as well for his advantage. And people forget Tom Mitchell might be small, but he's mighty in the clutches and one of the best stoppage players of the last 20 years. So he's going to learn off a guy that's got physical attributes similar to him, who's maximised his craft, and it's never been a detriment to him.
Like Diesel's not a big guy, and he's probably the best stoppage player of all time, if you ask me.
Yeah, spot on. It's fascinating because we always talk about trends, and now to be an inside midfielder, you've got to be 190, and I think that might be Cripps and Bontempelli's fault because everyone just assumes now you've got to be a giant to play it, but it's not all your physical attributes. And like Sam Walsh, even though we've complained about his work in the stoppage for his first year as a stoppage player, he was pretty impressive as well. Like, I think the ability not to be hit is an underrated ability where Nick Dacos gets called soft because he doesn't do the hard stuff, but try and stop him. He's got an incredible gift at being uncontested, which is a skill in itself.
Brisbane couldn't stop him.
Yeah, not many people can, to be fair. I mean, he's world class, which is we don't hear that term in AFL quite a lot because the world doesn't play it. But I think players like Sam Walsh, Nick Dacos, world class. And I do want to ask you while you're here, Josh Dacos. I find Josh Dacos reminds me a lot of Ollie Hollands in his first 2 years, and I did a comparison a couple of months ago, just saying that they're very similar numbers when they first started out, and you used him more defensively, and then he went forward and he became such a good player. Yeah. Did Collingwood fans ever complain when Josh Dacos was having 14, 15 touches and learning the game? Because from my memory, you always got behind Josh.
I'm not sure. I think he was down to start with, and then the pandemic came, and then after the pandemic came, he just skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's fascinating because like there's not massive amounts of difference between them statistically and in the roles. And I remember watching Josh when he came through your system. I was like, this guy looks like the modern day winger, like strong defensively, willing to do the hard stuff, which is what most wingers don't do. And then he went on to be the Josh Dacos that we've seen now, which is a rounded player. So, yeah, I feel like wingers are probably the hardest position to play in the AFL and get any love, I've noticed.
And I think if you want a winger, you're better off going for somebody smaller. Like you look at Sydney with Errol Gordon and Hawthorn with Massimo D'Ambrosio. And look at Essendon with Nick Cox on the wing. He's rubbish. And he's 2 meters tall.
Yeah. We went through a stage in the AFL of giant wingers, which is a fascinating trend that appeared a couple of years ago, which seems to have died quite quickly. But yeah, I remember a lot of giant wingers coming in the AFL system. Carlton tried it with Will Setterfield, which would him a move to Essendon. We destroyed his career that much.
Team U Crips, as I call them.
Yeah, bizarre that guy spent a whole year on the wing. God bless him. Sorry, Will, if you ever come across this.
He's not quick at all.
Yeah. Played the wing because he could mark, and he ran a decent 15k time trial once, which concerned, but I mean, it is what it is. Ben, talk to us before I let you go. Off-season, Collingwood. Is it full rebuild like some of the media are saying? Is it a slight micro reset, or is it business as usual?
I think it's probably a reset. I think we probably will be looking to transition to some of the younger guys that we've already got, like Ryan and TJ and Harry and Alan but yeah.
And is there anything on your shopping list this year in the off season? I've linked you with Alex Davis, which Sam McClure stole. Anyone else?
I'm not really bothered. I don't really want Alex Davis, to be honest. I'd rather stick to Edward Allen and build him up.
Yeah, I don't mind that, but I mean, I think having both would be good. I'm a big fan of Alex. I think Alex is. I've got a feeling that Alex is this year's my big call. This year's Elijah Hollins.
Could be.
Like, and I think him learning off Tom Mitchell, he could be supreme.
Yeah,
supreme for you. I'm a big fan of Alex.
Yeah, he looks like a good player. He was rated quite high in the draft in 2020.
Yeah, he was one of the many dodgy Suns Academies players that they seem to just keep churning out down that way.
Like with that bigger body you mentioned as well, it started with Koutafidis and it was reinforced by Goods, and then Fife pretty much made it a trend.
Yeah, unfortunately, the AFL, like Max King, Charlie Curnow, Harry, like all key forwards now are all slight and can move and are mobile, which is fascinating to me because then when they come into the AFL, everyone complains that they're small, they don't mark, they don't kick goals. Like Cadman, Paul Cadman, he's copped it, but like I think Cadman's quality, but people are expecting him to behave like he's Levi Casbolt with Usain Bolt speed. Like, takes you a while to learn it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Ben, mate, I love your support. You're one of my favourites in chat. I'll let you get off, but wish you all the best with your culinary course, mate, and hope to see you again on the channel soon.
You're one of my favourites to hang out with. So,
hey, mate, we're gonna have to catch up in the off season, Ben. 100%.
Absolutely.
Cheers, mate. Look after yourself. Thank you very much.
You too.
I love Ben. Well, chat, we've been 1 hour, 42 minutes later than I said because I'm a liar. But love you all to pieces. Thank you very much for joining me. I had so much fun. But we'll try and do this once a week. And we'll probably do it more than once a week once the season ends and everyone's out of final, so we can start being mean to players and say that they're going to leave. But peace, love, and light. Thank you very much. Pommy out.